149. How capable are you? Facing Gu Qijue, Victoria launched attacks from various methods and angles, attempting to force him to move, but Victoria clearly failed. After sparring for a quarter of an hour, Victoria actively stopped. She bowed respectfully and said, "Your Excellency, the head of state, I am currently no match for you." Gu Qijue nodded slightly. If he had wanted to determine a winner against Victoria, Victoria would have died long ago. Fighting Victoria for so long was merely to gauge Victoria's actual combat ability. Panel data is related to strength, but panel data is absolutely not equal to actual strength. Just like now, he was completely certain that Victoria, a half-god of the first layer, was stronger than Gu Qijue, a half-god of the third layer. Gu Qijue, the half-god, had clearly realized this point as well. Gu Qijue and Victoria only had a simple exchange above the Ice Soul domain. However, the impact of their exchange was enormous and ongoing. At this moment, people throughout the Ice Soul domain, whether they were members of the Emperor Star Alliance or cultivators who had surrendered to the Ice Soul domain, were basically discussing this matter heatedly. Emperor Gu Yong's and Dao Taihuang gathered together. Gu Yong's couldn't help but ask, "Brother Taihuang, where did that half-god who fought with the head of state come from?" Dao Taihuang smiled helplessly. "I don't know either." He truly didn't know. Apart from Gu Qijue, probably no one could explain this question, however. Dao Taihuang still said, "No matter where that half-god Victoria came from, as long as she is a half-god combat force for our Emperor Star, that's enough." Gu Yong's naturally agreed with this point of view. Similar conversations were constantly appearing in other places as well, compared to the other powerful figures. The Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor was less concerned with formalities. At this time, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor had already appeared at the Infinite Group's floating base. More accurately, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor had appeared in Gu Qijue's office within the Infinite Group's floating base, sitting on Gu Qijue's lap, meeting his gaze. For powerful figures of the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor's level, time no longer held any meaning. Their level of life was extremely high, the passage of years could not leave any trace on them. She was extremely close to Gu Qijue, and sitting on his lap in that posture made Gu Qijue unable to resist wanting to help her purify her bloodline purity. After the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor sat on his lap like this, Gu Qijue casually asked, "What's wrong?" The Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor, with her beautiful, liquid eyes, looked at Gu Qijue very seriously and asked, "How did that half-god powerful figure of the Infinite Group appear?" It wasn't that she was worried the other party would compete with her for affection. She was genuinely curious how the Infinite Group managed to acquire another half-god powerful figure. Although the Infinite Group had been outrageous in the past, it only produced highly effective elixirs or high-tech weapons. Even more outrageous, it produced sane-trank war machines. This time, the Infinite Group suddenly produced a half-god, which was naturally outrageous to the extreme. After the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor asked, Gu Qijue chuckled and said, "Can a half-god powerful figure come to join the Infinite Group out of admiration?" The Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor hesitated for a moment and said, "Given the Infinite Group's development trend, recruiting a half-god powerful figure is not an unbelievable matter. But when you dueled with that half-god, I saw clearly that she was extremely respectful toward you. The other party doesn't seem like your ally, nor does she seem like your employee. Her attitude toward you, to use an inappropriate description, is more like the relationship between a slave and a master." The Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor was not slandering Victoria. Victoria was inherently 100% loyal to Gu Qijue. Saying that this stunningly beautiful half-god was Gu Qijue's slave seemed to be perfectly fine. Gu Qijue pondered for a moment and spoke again. "The Infinite Group is secretly carrying out several highly classified projects. These projects will help the Infinite Group and the Emperor Star Alliance grow together. Silver Wings Mist Moon Mecha, Emperor Star's Nightmare Intelligent Brain, my disciple Gu Yinling, and the Infinite Group's Heaven's Punishment War Machine, and the half-god Victoria you saw not long ago are all results of the Infinite Group's secret projects." Gu Qijue used a relatively vague and unfalsifiable explanation for this matter. It was not convenient for him to reveal the Infinite Engine now. The deeper his understanding of the Infinite Engine became, the more heaven-defying he felt it was. Such a high-end technological product. He didn't know what level of intelligent life created it. He also didn't know why it had ended up on Emperor Star and been obtained by him. The Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor naturally believed Gu Qijue's explanation. She had long felt that the Infinite Group was continuously doing things in places unseen by others. Only in this way could the Infinite Group present something remarkable every once in a while. After asking about the doubts in her heart, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor couldn't help but giggle. Is Your Excellency, the head of state, planning to just keep chatting with me? Gu Qijue shook his head. Of course not, actually. I've wanted to make you cry and beg for mercy for a long time. If he had said this to Jai Tianyu a long time ago, Jai Tianyu definitely would have dealt with him. After all, back then, Jai Tianyu was a top-tier demon emperor, and the disparity between his strength and Jai Tianyu's was huge. Now, however, it was different. Even if he spoke so bluntly, Jai Tianyu could only submit to him. Hearing Gu Qijue's words, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor wasn't angry. Instead, she continued to giggle. Then we'll have to see if Your Excellency, the head of state, has the capability to make me cry and beg for mercy. Gu Qijue smiled and said, As you wish. As his voice fell, a vast and surging energy barrier enveloped the entire office. A moment later, everyone in the Infinite Group's floating base showed a hint of strange expression. Just now, something unknown happened, and the Infinite Group's floating base vibrated unusually. In fact, even now, the Infinite Group's floating base was being stabilized by Gu Qijue's powerful energy force field. Without this extremely powerful energy force field stabilizing it, the Infinite Group's floating base would continue to be in constant vibration. At the same time, in a valley within the Ice Soul domain, Jai Shang, Lanzai, the Ape Emperor, Cute Treasure, and the approximately 5,000 other elites from the Emperor Academy were gathered. After Silver Wing, these elites of the Emperor Academy welcomed a new mentor. It was just that the new mentor looked ridiculously young, appearing to be only 14 or 15 years old. As everyone looked over, Gu Yinling also began his self-introduction. His appearance here was naturally Gu Qijue's instruction. When he has no special missions, he will be at the Emperor Academy, cultivating the most outstanding prodigies for the Emperor Star Alliance. 150. The demigod obsession of the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor under everyone's gaze. Gu Yinling said plainly, My name is Gu Yinling. I am the adopted son and disciple of head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star. As soon as he spoke, many people were very surprised, and even more were extremely envious of his status. After everyone's surprise subsided, Gu Yinling spoke again. I currently possess the strength of Imperial Rank 9 Peak Great Perfection, only a final, ethereal step away from becoming a demigod. From now on, I will be responsible for instructing the elites of Emperor Academy. The 5,000 people here are the most outstanding juniors from the major groups, various overlord forces, and other large, medium, and small forces of Emperor Star. Although you are excellent, what I need is not just elites, but the elite of the elite. The ace of aces? My time is limited. I cannot spend my precious time on mediocre people. Therefore, before formally instructing you, I must eliminate some mediocre people. Hearing Gu Yinling's words, many elites at Emperor Academy became nervous. Of course, more people were extremely confident. They were certain that they would not be eliminated, no matter what, because they were the elite of the elite that Gu Yinling needed. After Cute Treasure and the others heard Gu Yinling's words, they couldn't help but look at Lanzai and ask, Sister Lanzai, do you know what kind of assessment this new instructor has for us? Lanzai shook her head. I don't know. What are you guys planning to rig the system? Ape Emperor showed a mouthful of white teeth and smiled. Not exactly, if we don't meet the requirements. Studying under the new instructor would just be asking for abuse. We're just curious about what method he will use to select the elites. Not long after Ape Emperor finished speaking, it was no longer curious, because at this moment Gu Yinling had spoken again. Now all of you, endure my coercive pressure and come stand behind me. Only those who possess incredible perseverance and terrifying combat power far exceeding their peers can accomplish this. Such people, I am willing to call the elite ace among their peers. Those who are confident in themselves may begin. If you cannot withstand my coercive pressure, simply lie down on the ground, and other instructors will escort you out. After hearing Gu Yinling speak, Jai Shang stepped into Gu Yinling's coercive pressure without any hesitation. Since following Gu Qijue, he has always been courageous and diligent. At this moment, he naturally had no reason to retreat. Boom! After Jai Shang stepped into the area covered by Gu Yinling's coercive pressure, he immediately felt a sinking weight on his shoulders. At that moment, it felt as if a mountain peak was pressing down on his shoulders. However, Jai Shang did not utter a sound and continued moving forward. Gu Yinling's coercive pressure was clearly dynamically adjusted for each person. Otherwise, if it were truly the ultimate coercive pressure of a peak great emperor, a single thought could turn everyone here into dust. After Jai Shang, Lanzai also stepped into Gu Yinling's coercive pressure without a care. And then she was stunned, because she couldn't feel any coercive pressure on her body. Lan Zai immediately spoke up, full of confusion. Why is there no coercive pressure on me? Gu Yinling said helplessly, little ant. How would I dare test you? If you also want to undergo special training, just come right over. Upon hearing this, Lan Zai waved her hands repeatedly. How can I do that? I must pass the test based on my own true ability. After she said this, Gu Yinling also nodded, all right then. As his voice fell, a powerful coercive pressure enveloped Lan Zai as well. Although Lan Zai had been continuously showered with resources and given special treatment by Gu Qijue, but those resources and the repeated special treatments had clearly been converted into Lan Zai's strength. When accepting Gu Yinling's assessment this time, although Lan Zai felt some pressure, her performance was even better than top geniuses like Jai Shang. Her aptitude was originally not bad, and she had top-tier resources supplied infinitely. Even if Jai Shang was heaven-defying, he naturally couldn't compare to this young miss of infinite group. After Lan Zai and Jai Shang, Ape Emperor Cute Treasure, and the others also entered the area covered by Gu Yinling's coercive pressure. The same was true for the other elites of Emperor Academy. Once everyone entered, the hierarchy was immediately apparent. Lan Zai walked in the very front, taking the lead. Even if others had decent aptitude and lacked no resources, they still couldn't compare to her. The prodigies from Emperor Mountain and Tegu Group, along with Jai Shang and the others, were in the second echelon. The remaining people were in the third echelon, enduring immense pressure and struggling arduously. Some prodigies were pressed so hard by Gu Yinling's terrifying coercive pressure that even their shoulders were deformed. This shows how much pressure and pain they had to endure to possibly pass the test. The pressure and pain endured by the many prodigies were immense, and the pressure and pain endured by the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor were also considerable. This time, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor truly cried and begged for mercy. Gu Qijue's demigod-level combat power was clearly no joke. While the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor's bloodline was being purified and she began consolidating her strength, Gu Qijue had already started smoking a post-coital cigarette. Interestingly, not long ago, Jai Yinyu also purified her bloodline and consolidated her strength in this very place. Now, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor also received the same treatment. Gu Qijue began pondering when he should let Victoria come and receive an enhancement as well. There is no concept of bloodline power for Victoria, and Victoria herself possesses a demigod physique. However, he could begin helping Victoria purify the energy within her body, allowing Victoria's strength to improve. This seemed to be one of the ultimate uses of the 9 Dragon Balls. But only beautiful women were afforded this treatment. Others could not gain enhancement this way. The Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor consolidated her strength faster than Jai Yinyu, but her luck was not as good as Jai Yinyu's. After Jai Yinyu's bloodline was purified, she advanced further and directly became an Emperor rank expert. After the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor's bloodline was purified once again, she still failed to become a demigod. After her strength was consolidated, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor left Gu Qijue's lounge and prepared to leave his office as well. But before she could leave, Gu Qijue called out to her, although my judgment may not be completely accurate, but if nothing unexpected happens, after purifying your bloodline another 10 or 8 times, you should be able to advance to demigod. Hearing this, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor was immediately ecstatic. Does that mean I can become a demigod today? Gu Qijue quickly shook his head. You need a balance of work and rest. Have you ever heard of anyone purifying their bloodline more than 10 times in one day? If you mess around like this, even if the field isn't ruined, the ox will be worked to death. The Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor was almost obsessed with the matter of becoming a demigod. After Gu Qijue finished speaking, she immediately returned to Gu Qijue's side and said, please, quickly help me achieve a breakthrough to demigod. She clearly forgot the pain before wounds had healed. She had been crying and begging for mercy just moments ago. 151. Surprise attack on the Emperor Star Allied forces. Gu Qijue pondered for a moment and finally did not refuse. He didn't really care. And when helping Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor and Jai Yinyu, he would also gain a special understanding of his 4th form. It was as if that brief moment of unity between heaven and man was very suitable for enlightenment. If this continued, his 4th form would emerge before long. His 1st form was his current normal state. His 2nd form was a semi-dragon transformation, with twin dragons appearing behind his shoulders and a dragon tail behind him. His 3rd form was a further complete dragon transformation. With each combat form switch, his combat power could increase several times, or even more than 10 times. He just didn't know what his 4th combat form would be like. Gu Qijue couldn't continue thinking, because Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor, this stunning beauty, had already impatiently pulled him into the lounge. Gu Qijue could only say helplessly, "Are you sure you don't want to purify your bloodline gradually? I'm worried you won't be able to withstand the continuously growing tyrannical power." Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor shook her head. "It doesn't matter. As long as this emperor can break through the great emperor's shackles and become a demigod, I can endure any hardship." As her voice fell, Gu Qijue had no choice but to use his energy field again, enveloping the entire office and lounge, and simultaneously fixing the entire infinite group floating base. At the same time, in Black Wind Domain, the Council Hall, the magnates of Black Wind Domain, Heavenly Wolf Domain, and South Heng Domain were all gathered together. Although the Emperor Star Alliance had not yet attacked, they clearly could not relax their vigilance. The Emperor Star Alliance had not yet attacked, not because they had stopped their conquest. It was because they were seizing the time to digest the gains from conquering Tianheng Domain and Ice Soul Domain. Once the Emperor Star Alliance had rested, Black Wind Domain would become Emperor Star's next target. After Black Wind Domain was finished, Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain would also suffer. Under such circumstances, Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain would naturally fully support Black Wind Domain. In the Council Hall, there were currently 6 demigods present. If needed, the Black Wind Domain will could also materialize, making it 7 demigods. Even the Heavenly Wolf Domain will and the South Heng Domain will could materialize. After everyone was seated, the Lord of Nanheng demigod Chunanheng, spoke first. "While Emperor Star hasn't attacked yet, perhaps we can go and talk to Emperor Star." Greedy Wolf Demigod immediately shook his head upon hearing this. "Emperor Star is too brutal and barbaric. We have nothing to talk about with them. If nothing unexpected happens, Emperor Star won't negotiate with us either. The only thing we should do is, when Emperor Star attacks, all 9 demigods should move out together to besiege the 3 demigod-rank combat powers of Emperor Star." Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star is very powerful, but under the siege of 3 demigods, no matter how great his abilities, he will still die on the spot. After Gu Qijue finished speaking, Nanheng demigod Chu Nanheng said, "The South Heng Domain will not leave South Heng Domain." Greedy Wolf Demigod of Heavenly Wolf Domain also stated at this time, "The Heavenly Wolf Domain will not leave Heavenly Wolf Domain either. The best case is 7 demigods against the 3 demigods of the Emperor Star Alliance. Can't 7 demigods crush 3 demigods?" Greedy Wolf Demigod also knew that Gu Qijue was very powerful, but he didn't seem to have heard that Dai Qi Demigod of Emperor Star and the Emperor Star will were also very powerful. Gu Qijue Demigod said upon hearing this, "Dai Qi Demigod and the Emperor Star will are not very strong. However, Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star is very powerful. If there are only 7 demigods, it's best to have 5 demigods besiege the head of Emperor Star." Greedy Wolf Demigod frowned. "Is that necessary? Moreover, Nanheng Demigod makes a lot of sense. Are we sure we shouldn't negotiate with the Emperor Star Alliance?" During the Emperor Star's conquest, Black Wind Domain bore the brunt. Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain, with Black Wind Domain as a strategic buffer, still wanted to negotiate peace. This time, before Gu Qijue Demigod could speak, Black Wind Demigod of Black Wind Domain said indifferently, "Although the current Emperor Star Alliance is very powerful, but the current Emperor Star Alliance is not yet so powerful as to be completely invincible. Whether the Emperor Star Alliance agrees to peace talks or not, we cannot nurture a tiger to our own detriment. What do you all think?" When Black Wind Demigod said this, Nanheng Demigod Chu Nanheng and Greedy Wolf Demigod both fell silent. Black Wind Demigod's words were very reasonable. If they attacked Emperor Star before the Emperor Star Alliance had fully developed, they still had hope of victory. Once the Emperor Star Alliance had thoroughly established its footing, it would clearly be too late for them to fight the Emperor Star Alliance. In other words, the current Emperor Star Alliance might be at its weakest. If they continued to let them develop, the Emperor Star Alliance would only grow stronger over time. Therefore, not only could they not proactively negotiate, but even if the Emperor Star Alliance proactively sought negotiations with them, they could not agree. The leader of each domain is often not simple. Their strength and vision often surpass all other powerhouses in that domain. Black Wind Demigod was precisely like this. Not only was he not preparing to negotiate with the Emperor Star Alliance, but he was also a very hardline hawk. While the powerhouses of Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain were still hesitating, he put forward a very bold proposal. When the Emperor Star Alliance fought against Tianheng Domain and Ice Soul Domain, Both Tianheng Domain and Ice Soul Domain were passively defending. Long defense leads to loss. I'm sure you all understand this principle. Therefore, not only do we not need to defend in Black Wind Domain, but we should also actively attack the Ice Soul Domain and Tianheng Domain controlled by Emperor Star. After Black Wind Demigod finished speaking, Gu Qijue Demigod immediately agreed. Exactly. With the number of combat troops and powerhouses in the Emperor Star Alliance, they cannot fight on two fronts simultaneously. On one battlefield, our demigods can go one-on-one with the Emperor Star Alliance's demigods, while on the other battlefield, we can fully exploit our advantages. If the Emperor Star Alliance doesn't allocate demigod combat power to a certain battlefield, we only need to send one war god over to completely slaughter the Emperor Star's combat troops on that battlefield. Black Wind Domain was a stronger opponent for the Emperor Star Alliance. The most direct manifestation was that the leader of Black Wind Domain was very tough and reckless. The powerhouses of Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain were now persuaded by Black Wind Domain. Instead of passively defending, it was better to actively attack. Therefore, at this time, the powerhouses of the three domains also began to discuss the battle plan against the Emperor Star Alliance. Crystal Core, 152, Unbelievable Courage, he beheads Gu Qijue, while the Black Wind Domain, Heavenly Wolf Domain, and South Heng Domain began discussing their battle plans against the Emperor Star Alliance. A major event was also unfolding in the Ice Soul Domain. Perhaps one day had passed, or perhaps two. Suddenly, a powerful fluctuation swept across the heavens and earth from within the Infinite Group's floating base. Boom! A terrifying aura, powerful and domineering to the extreme, abruptly burst forth. Above the Infinite Group's floating base, an exceptionally powerful figure appeared at that very moment. After receiving Gu Qijue's assistance in repeatedly purifying her bloodline, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor finally advanced further, becoming the Tianyue demigod. Feeling the immense, powerful, and versatile strength within herself, the Heavenly Moon Demon Emperor felt that the tears she had shed over the past 2 or 3 days were worth it. Although she had cried and begged for mercy several times, barely enduring the pain of bloodline purification, fortunately, all of that was now over. She was now the 5th demigod expert in the Emperor Star Alliance, following Gu Qijue, the Emperor Star Will, Gu Qijue demigod, and Victoria demigod. Only now did the Tianyue demigod truly understand the enormous disparity between a demigod expert and the imperial rank. No wonder those emperor rank experts were nothing but worthless trash before Gu Qijue. All being utterly crushed and obliterated by him, the many experts of the Black Wind Domain allied forces clearly would not have expected this. The Emperor Star Alliance now boasted 5 demigods, not 3. If they rushed over rashly, they would definitely be in for trouble. Gu Qijue temporarily had no intention of attacking the Black Wind Domain. According to his previous deployment, the Emperor Star allied forces could rest for a few more days. After Jai Tianyu's breakthrough, his figure appeared beside her. The continuous campaigns during this period had not left Gu Qijue dispirited. Every time the Tianyue demigod cried and begged for mercy, it seemed to replenish his fuel. Jai Tianyu saw Gu Qijue and chuckled, "Your Excellency, the head of state, how about a spar?" Gu Qijue smiled, "Haven't we been sparring for the past 2 or 3 days?" Hearing this, Jai Tianyu huffed slightly in annoyance. She was referring to a proper spar with Gu Qijue, not the bloodline purification. Gu Qijue stopped joking with her and said, "There's no need for a spar. You should hurry up and consolidate your demigod strength." While he was speaking with Jai Tianyu, Gu Qijue demigod rushed over. Seeing Gu Qijue, Gu Qijue demigod immediately spoke, "Chief Gu. Something has happened." Gu Qijue sobered up and asked, "What happened?" Gu Qijue demigod said with an unusually solemn expression, "The Tianheng Domain's resource collection unit was ambushed by the Black Wind Domain allied forces. 3 demigods from the Black Wind Domain allied forces appeared in the Tianheng Domain. How should we respond?" Gu Qijue did not hesitate this time and said, "You, the Tianyue demigod, and Victoria demigod all go and deal with it." He truly hadn't expected the Black Wind Domain to be so audacious. Not only did they fail to defend strictly, but they actually dared to launch an active attack. Currently, 80% of the Emperor Star allied forces' combat troops were concentrated in the Ice Soul Domain, with only 20% in the Tianheng Domain. However, since 3 demigods from the Black Wind Domain allied forces had appeared there, he still needed to dispatch 3 demigods. As for the Ice Soul Domain, he and the Emperor Star will could hold the fort. Gu Qijue demigod nodded upon hearing this. Victoria demigod, who had received Gu Qijue's order, also arrived at this moment. under the leadership of Gu Qijue demigod. She and the Tian Yue demigod, who had only recently achieved the breakthrough to demigod, headed together toward the Tianheng domain. Not long after the three demigods left, an unexpected change occurred in the Ice Soul domain as well. Just as the people in the Ice Soul domain grew highly nervous, four extremely powerful and terrifying auras suddenly appeared. These four auras belonged to four demigods. They were the Black Wind demigod and Wei Xiao demigod from the Black Wind domain. The remaining two demigods were one each from the Heavenly Wolf domain and the South Heng domain. But they were not the Greedy Wolf demigod or the Nan Heng demigod. When these four appeared, Jia Yinyu, Gu Yang's, Dao Taihuang, Bei Qingshan, Gu Yinling, Heaven's Punishment, and the other great emperors and quasi-emperors all grew tense. After all, the Ice Soul domain currently only had Gu Qijue and the Emperor Star Will, two demigod-level combat powers. Yet the opponents had brought four demigods this time. After the Black Wind demigod arrived, he immediately waved his large hand, and he and the other two demigods instantly appeared opposite Gu Qijue. Wei Xiao demigod, meanwhile, blocked the Emperor Star Will, who had just revealed its form. Before Ice Seal demigod died, his greatest wish was for three demigods to besiege Gu Qijue. In Ice Seal demigod's mind, if three demigods could surround and attack Gu Qijue would surely be dead. The Black Wind demigod had already realized his wish. The Black Wind demigod looked at Gu Qijue with a hint of smugness and said, "Chief Gu, did you ever imagine that I would take the initiative to attack?" Gu Qijue sighed lightly and said, "Judging by your Excellency's tone, it seems your Excellency is quite pleased with this foolish decision." The Black Wind demigod had originally thought that Gu Qijue would panic after being surrounded by three demigods, but he was completely wrong. Surrounded by three demigods, Gu Qijue remained calm and composed, showing little reaction. However, the Black Wind demigod believed that Gu Qijue was definitely calm on the surface, but terrified deep down. Finding out whether Gu Qijue was truly calm or just putting on an act was simple. "Attack, you two attack with me. Today, the three of us shall behead Chief Gu of the Emperor Star Alliance." After speaking, the Black Wind demigod raised his hand and immediately unleashed a fierce wind dragon tornado. The two demigods behind him did not delay either. Their mission was a surprise demigod-level decapitation strike, and their sole goal was a swift victory. Suddenly, a battle of demigods erupted violently, while everyone in the Emperor Star Alliance worried for Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue made a daring decision that no one had anticipated. His majestic yet indifferent voice spread throughout the Ice Soul domain. "Attention! All groups and all large, medium, and small forces in the Emperor Star Alliance. Heed my command, attack the Black Wind domain." This battle was hastily initiated, but it was advantageous for the Emperor Star Alliance. This was because all the demigods of the Black Wind domain allied forces had rushed to the Ice Soul domain and the Tianheng domain. According to the intelligence they had previously gathered, the Black Wind domain allied forces had 6 demigods, excluding the Black Wind domain will. Including the Black Wind domain will, they possessed 7 demigods. Now, all 7 demigods of the Black Wind domain allied forces were absent from the Black Wind domain. Therefore, Gu Yinling, Heaven's Punishment, Dao Taihuang, Gu Yang's, Bei Qingshan, and other top-tier great emperors, as well as Jia Yinyu, who possessed the Mist Moon Mecha. Once they entered the Black Wind domain, they would simply slaughter everything, without demigods present. An ordinary great emperor was no match for Gu Yinling. 153. I want your crystal cores. This war was extremely sudden and extremely bizarre. The high-end combat power and the conventional forces of both sides ended up concluding the battle across 3 separate battlefields. The Black Wind demigod also hadn't expected Gu Qijue to be so arrogant. At a time like this, he actually ordered the Emperor Star allied forces to directly launch a war against the Black Wind domain. But now, nothing matters. The only thing they need to do is quickly eliminate Gu Qijue. The Emperor Star Alliance's combat forces previously numbered 120 billion, and have now grown to 150 billion. This number could certainly have been much larger originally. However, after Emperor Star occupied the Ice Soul domain, they upgraded and optimized their combat forces. Many combat personnel who lacked sufficient strength were transferred to the reserves or logistics. The current 150 billion combat forces are all elites. In the past, when the Emperor Star Alliance went to war, Gu Qijue always led the team personally. This time is different. The one responsible for leading the team is Gu Qijue's disciple and adopted son, Gu Yinling. Gu Yinling's current strength is already very close to that of a demigod. He might even successfully ascend to demigod status during the battle. Dao Taihuang, Gu Yong's, Bei Qingshan, and Jia Yinyu, along with the great emperors from other major groups and overlord-level powers, all looked at Gu Yinling with great envy. Beside Dao Taihuang, Gu Yong's side, it looks like young Master Yinling will soon ascend to demigod status. I wonder what kind of special treatment Your Excellency, the head of state, gave him. Dao Taihuang laughed. Envy is useless. Even Your Excellency, the head of state, would not casually bestow the opportunity to ascend to demigod status. Gu Yong's nodded upon hearing this and continued. The most infuriating thing is that even though the head of state is tied down by the Black Wind domain's demigods on the Ice Soul domain battlefield, the Infinite Group's gains will still likely be the largest. His words were based on facts. The Infinite Group possesses Gu Yinling and Heaven's Punishment, these two peak great emperors. Especially Gu Yinling, if a demigod doesn't appear, he is virtually unrivaled. Although Heaven's Punishment is not as strong as Gu Yinling, he is still a top-tier great emperor expert, only slightly weaker than Gu Yinling. This time, both sides are fighting a surprise attack war. The demigods of the Black Wind domain are launching a surprise decapitation strike against the demigods of the Emperor Star Alliance. The Emperor Star Alliance's 150 billion combat forces are launching a sudden attack against the Black Wind domain's approximately 200 billion combat forces. The Black Wind domain received full support from the Heavenly Wolf domain and the South Hang domain. The Black Wind domain currently has a very large number of combat forces. As the Emperor Star Alliance's combat forces emerged from thousands of wormholes, the numerous combat forces of the Black Wind domain also entered a state of readiness. Buzz, above and below the Black Wind domain, a large number of battle formations belonging to the Black Wind domain allied forces quickly appeared. Cultivator battle formations are one of the unique methods of the Shenhuang continent. The key feature is that the sum of the whole produces a greater effect than the sum of the individual parts. For example, if 10,000 Black Wind domain combat forces clash with 10,000 Emperor Star combat forces, if they do not form a battle formation and engage in a chaotic fight, the Black Wind domain's combat forces would definitely be beaten senseless by the various technological weapons. But if they form a battle formation and compete against the Emperor Star allied forces, then the two sides will engage in a back-and-forth struggle. The 200 billion combat forces of the Black Wind domain allied forces fully absorbed the lessons learned by the cultivators of the Ice Soul domain and the Tianheng domain. Their combat forces are trying every possible way to form battle formations and contend with the Emperor Star allied forces. Those who truly cannot form formations are instead piloting various magic treasures and engaging the Emperor Star Alliance's combat forces. Thanks to the painful lessons of the Ice Soul domain cultivators and the Tianheng domain cultivators, they no longer have the hobby of using their faces to withstand laser cannons or missiles. Even those cultivators who truly couldn't form formations and didn't have suitable magic treasures did not expose themselves arbitrarily on the battlefield, but instead hid inside various towers and cities. At first glance, this battle does not seem easy, but this battle is destined to be the stage for Jia Yinyu, the Heaven's Punishment war machine. And Gu Yinling, Jia Yinyu's Mist Moon Nanite Mecha, and Heaven's Punishment are second only to Gu Yinling in strength. As for Gu Yinling, if a demigod doesn't appear, he is virtually invincible. Led by Gu Yinling, Heaven's Punishment and Jia Yinyu, who was wearing the Mist Moon Mecha, immediately plunged into the Black Wind domain's combat forces. The battle formations that the Black Wind domain prided itself on were easily destroyed by Gu Yinling, who unleashed streaks of silver lightning with overwhelming force. The Black Wind demigod of the Black Wind domain is a highly capable and strategic expert. The only thing he failed to consider was that Gu Qijue was just as bold as him, perhaps even bolder, daring to open war on 3 battlefields simultaneously. When it comes to war, failing to account for even a single aspect can be fatal. At this moment, the Black Wind domain allied forces suffered heavy damage from Gu Yinling, Jia Yinyu, and Heaven's Punishment. None of the peak great emperors left behind in the Black Wind domain were a match for Gu Yinling. He charged forward, effortlessly crushing and eliminating every opponent he encountered. In the demigod war on the Tianheng domain battlefield, the Black Wind domain actually held a slight advantage. This slight advantage stemmed from the fact that Jia Tianyu had just achieved a demigod breakthrough before being drawn into the demigod war. The entity fighting Jia Tianyu was the Black Wind domain will. Since the start of the conflict, Jia Tianyu has been extremely passive. She only recently achieved demigod status with Gu Qijue's help, while her opponent was the manifested world will, whose combat power was extremely formidable. On Gu Qijue demigod's side, he faced the greedy wolf demigod and was struggling immensely, even being suppressed by the greedy wolf demigod. Only Victoria possessed terrifying strength. The Nanheng demigod, Chu Nanheng, who was fighting her, was surprisingly not her match. However, Victoria could not eliminate the Nanheng demigod in just a moment. The Ice Soul Domain battlefield was also fiercely contested. The Emperor Star Will and Qi Zio demigod were evenly matched. However, the battle involving the three demigods led by the Black Wind demigod was extremely unfavorable. Even though the three demigods joined forces, they were only able to fight the peak Great Emperor Gu Qijue to a draw. Equally matched. If Gu Qijue were also a demigod, wouldn't he have smashed their heads in? It was bad enough that Gu Qijue could easily defeat Higher Realm. But the fact was he hadn't even used his full power yet. Boom! A pure power of the dragon clan suddenly erupted from Gu Qijue at this moment. After using a demigod crystal core to create Victoria, he became extremely interested in this rare resource, the demigod crystal core. He desperately wanted to obtain the demigod crystal cores of the three demigods, including the Black Wind demigod. Roar! Two earth-shattering dragon roars came from behind Gu Qijue. Immediately, Gu Qijue's appearance underwent a massive change. His hair became a cascade of gray-white, his figure grew more imposing, a dragon tail sprouted behind him, and two terrifying, ferocious black dragons emerged above his shoulders. At this moment, he directly entered his second combat form, preparing to eliminate the three demigods before him and acquire their demigod crystal cores. 154. What good will it do to play your trump card? The combat power of head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star was terrifying. This was the consensus among everyone in Black Wind Domain. If not for that, when the Black Wind Domain allied forces and the Emperor Star allied forces were at war, the Black Wind Domain allied forces would not have needed to dispatch three demigods to carry out a beheading operation against Gu Qijue. Under normal circumstances, a demigod powerhouse would easily be at a disadvantage when fighting one against two. At the demigod stage, the difference between minor realms is often not very significant. Gu Qijue, however, was a very rare prodigy, because he wasn't even a demigod yet, but already possessed the powerful combat strength of a demigod level. Now, after entering his second combat state, the incredibly terrifying aura of power emanating from him made the three demigods, including Black Wind demigod, deeply wary. The demigod powerhouses from Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain couldn't help but feel the urge to retreat at this moment. Although Black Wind demigod was also very wary of Gu Qijue, he understood that they weren't entirely without a chance now. No matter what, Gu Qijue was ultimately just a great emperor, not a demigod. Even if he could defeat demigods, his power had its limits. With 3 against 1, they might still be able to make Gu Qijue perish here. Black Wind demigod immediately spoke urgently. Don't panic, both of you. Join me in going all out, don't hold anything back. If it proves impossible, I will cover your retreat and buy you two a chance to escape. After Black Wind demigod said this, the demigods from Heavenly Wolf Domain and South Heng Domain naturally couldn't just run away. Moreover, Black Wind demigod's words actually made a lot of sense. Under normal circumstances, there was no way 3 demigods couldn't defeat Gu Qijue. Under Black Wind demigod's reassurance, the 2 demigods became serious again. Black Wind demigod even took the lead, charging directly towards Gu Qijue. He suddenly threw several punches, each one unleashing a terrifying black hurricane dragon tornado. Boom, boom, booms, boom. Facing the terrifying black hurricane dragon tornado, the half-dragonized Gu Qijue merely glanced at it disdainfully. Immediately, in the terrified gazes of Black Wind demigod and the other 2 demigods, he instantly approached Black Wind demigod. Crack, crack! Those hurricane tornadoes were easily shattered by Gu Qijue. A piercing sonic boom erupted as Gu Qijue broke through the sound barrier and punched Black Wind demigod. Bang! This punch was powerful and heavy, incredibly fierce, containing terrifying might. As this punch landed, deafening explosions immediately erupted from Black Wind demigod's body. Black Wind demigod suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, his figure was sent flying backward like a kite with a broken string by Gu Qijue's powerful and heavy punch. What? How is this possible? Silver Wolf demigod and Nanyao demigod were stunned when they saw this scene. The 2 of them never dared to dream that a powerful demigod like Black Wind demigod would be sent flying. Spitting blood by Gu Qijue in a single exchange, Black Wind Demigod was not like Jai Tianyu, who had just entered the demigod realm. Black Wind Demigod was a demigod powerhouse at demigod 5th perfection. Among many demigods, his strength was considered relatively formidable. Yet, such a demigod was sent flying by a single punch in front of Gu Qijue, without even the ability to dodge. At this moment, Silver Wolf Demigod and Nan Yao Demigod's apprehension towards Gu Qijue directly reached its peak. Buzz! The demigod crystal cores within their bodies released their maximum power. At this moment, Silver Wolf Demigod and Nan Yao Demigod were both surrounded by divine light. This was one of the demigod powerhouse's trump cards, the pseudogod Dharma idol. In this state, their power would be amplified to the greatest extent. Under normal circumstances, only demigods at the demigod 4th stage or higher possess such a method. Therefore, old ancestor Gu Qijue, being a demigod 3rd stage, could not summon his pseudogod Dharma idol. With the pseudogod Dharma idol, the situation indeed changed somewhat. Boom! This time, Gu Qijue's claw strike only forced Silver Wolf Demigod to retreat repeatedly. He had just easily sent Black Wind Demigod, who was stronger than Silver Wolf Demigod, flying with his attack. The current situation indicated that the pseudogod Dharma idol still had some tricks. Boom! Boom! Gu Qijue continued to fight Silver Wolf Demigod and Nan Heng Demigod. The expressions of these two became so solemn that water could almost drip from them. Gu Qijue was too strong. Unbelievably strong. Even after they used powerful trump cards like the pseudogod Dharma idol, Gu Qijue, fighting 1 against 2, could still continuously suppress them. Gu Qijue's terrifying combat power was evident from this. Fortunately, at this moment, Black Wind Demigod, who had been sent flying by Gu Qijue, also used his demigod Dharma idol and returned. This time, Black Wind Demigod dared not utter a single word of nonsense. After he arrived, he, Silver Wolf Demigod, and Nan Yao Demigod joined forces to attack Gu Qijue with all their might. Boom, 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 boom. Rumble! The battle above the 9 heavens was extremely fierce. Within the Emperor Star Alliance, approximately 150 billion combat troops had already entered Black Wind Domain and were battling the Black Wind Domain allied forces. However, in Ice Soul Domain, a large number of reserves and logistical troops remained. Everyone at this moment looked up at the battle above the 9 heavens, utterly shocked. Each of them couldn't help but feel a little excited, because Gu Qijue, the head of Emperor Star, was terrifyingly powerful. Even when the 3 demigods used powerful trump cards like the demigod Dharma idol, he could still easily suppress them. Buzz! Traces of blood chi continuously condensed in Gu Qijue's hand. In a short while, a blood spear was already in his grasp. When he was barehanded, he had already utterly defeated Black Wind Demigod, Silver Wolf Demigod, and Nan Yao Demigod. Now, with the blood spear in hand, these 3 demigods were even less of a match for him. Above the 9 heavens, Gu Qijue charged forward leisurely and continuously. Black Wind Demigod, Silver Wolf Demigod, and Nan Yao Demigod at this moment could only retreat again and again. Whoosh! As Nan Yao Demigod hastily retreated and frantically responded, Gu Qijue also spotted an opportunity. Soon after he saw the opportunity, the blood spear in his hand suddenly thrust violently towards Nan Yao Demigod. This spear strike was fast, accurate, ruthless, and carried incredibly astonishing and terrifying power. Facing Gu Qijue's attack, Nan Yao Demigod dared not hesitate in the slightest. A treasure pagoda was instantly conjured by him. Rays of light enveloped the treasure pagoda, completely shrouding Nan Yao Demigod in the blink of an eye. Bathed in the protective divine light of the treasure pagoda, Nan Yao Demigod felt slightly more at ease. 155. Pursue the fleeing enemy, slay demigods in succession. Clang! The blood spear in Gu Qijue's hand suddenly struck the pagoda. The pagoda, which was radiating brilliant golden light, shook violently, causing fear and dread to surface in the eyes of Nan Yao Demigod. A casual spear strike from Gu Qijue could actually make his pagoda shake like this. Just how terrifying was the power contained in this blow? Clang! Gu Qijue quickly retrieved his spear and stabbed again. This time, the blood spear in his hand was even more terrifying, directly tearing cracks into the pagoda's light barrier. Crack! Crack! Nan Yao Demigod, who had only been surprised moments before, was now utterly terrified. Since becoming a demigod, every time he encountered a life-or-death crisis, he would deploy this demigod-level ultimate defensive treasure. Under normal circumstances, unless an opposing demigod also possessed a formidable demigod-level ultimate offensive treasure, they would have absolutely no way to deal with him. But this time, A bizarre situation occurred. Gu Qijue's blood spear was not a magic treasure, but was condensed using his own vital qi and blood power. How could a weapon like this have such a terrifying effect? Boom! Something even more frightening occurred at this moment. The blood spear in Gu Qijue's hand stabbed out a third time. Crack, crack, bang, this time. The pagoda magic treasure, radiating brilliant golden light, was instantly and forcefully blasted apart by Gu Qijue. Under the horrified gaze of Naniao demigod, the blood spear continued its momentum unabated, fiercely stabbing toward him. Block it for me. Although Naniao demigod was terrified to the extreme, he did not wait for death. In his hand, another ancient bronze shield magic treasure appeared. Although he possessed quite a few magic treasures, they still could not withstand Gu Qijue's terrifying assault. Crack, crack! The ancient shield deployed by Naniao demigod was not as powerful as the golden light pagoda. That ancient shield, which seemed to possess astonishing defensive power, only managed to resist the force of Gu Qijue's blood spear for a single instant. Afterward, the blood spear in Gu Qijue's hand instantly pulverized the ancient shield. Before Naniao demigod could react, the blood spear directly blasted his head apart. A terrified divine soul escaped. Attempting to flee, Gu Qijue didn't even look, casually sending out a bolt of lightning. Rumble! A clap of thunder suddenly sounded between heaven and earth, and immediately, Naniao demigod's divine soul was also blasted into dust. The demigod crystal core, which had been wrapped by his divine soul, appeared before Gu Qijue at this moment. Come! Gu Qijue was in a great mood. With a raise of his hand, he grabbed the demigod crystal core. Currently, approximately 2 demigod crystal cores would allow him to create a demigod life form of his liking. Therefore, he was extremely interested in good things like demigod crystal cores. Black Wind demigod and Silver Wolf demigod could never have imagined that Naniao demigod would still be easily killed by Gu Qijue, even after using his demigod manifestation. Neither Black Wind demigod nor Silver Wolf demigod dared to linger at this moment. They immediately fled. As they fled, Gu Qijue demigod also decisively ran away. This time, they had once again misjudged Gu Qijue's strength. Continuing to stay here would only lead to certain death. To deal with Gu Qijue, they either needed a sufficient number of demigods, or they needed to deploy a peak demigod with extremely formidable strength. However, the number of demigods in the Black Wind Domain allied army was also limited. The ability to dispatch 3 demigods to deal with Gu Qijue was already the limit of the Black Wind Domain allied army. As for peak demigods, they were already the strongest existences below divine beings. Even the Black Wind Domain did not possess powerhouses of that level. While Black Wind demigod, Silver Wolf demigod, and Gu Qijue demigod were desperately fleeing for their lives, Gu Qijue directly tore open the Void Realm and went to intercept and kill them. While pursuing and intercepting them, he sneered, "Since you came, there's no need to leave. Your demigod crystal cores are very useful to this commander." Gu Qijue's words were a massive insult and provocation to the demigod powerhouses. But no matter what Gu Qijue said now, Black Wind demigod, Silver Wolf demigod, and Gu Qijue demigod would absolutely not stop. They had undoubtedly miscalculated this time. Gu Qijue had never displayed his full strength in previous actions. The first person Gu Qijue caught up to was none other than Gu Qijue demigod, who had visited the Ice Soul domain last time. Seeing Gu Qijue's figure getting closer and closer, Gu Qijue cried out in extreme terror. "Save me!" He was absolutely certain that he was no match for Gu Qijue. His strength was slightly inferior even to Naniao demigod. If he faced Gu Qijue, the result would be a swift obliteration. After he cried out for help, Black Wind demigod and Silver Wolf demigod not only had no intention of stopping to help, but they actually ran even faster. Especially Black Wind demigod, who had initially vowed to stay behind to cover their retreat and give others a chance to escape. After realizing that Gu Qijue was overwhelmingly powerful, he became the fastest runner of the group. There are 4 main factors that allow a demigod powerhouse to survive battle after battle. The first factor is luck. For example, Greedy Wolf demigod, who appeared in the Tianheng domain, didn't have to face Gu Qijue directly and could instead deal with Tian Yue demigod, who was a soft target. The second factor, of course, is running fast. This is what Black Wind demigod relied on to survive countless life and death struggles. When he truly started running, he actually got faster and faster. In terms of speed, Gu Qijue was only slightly faster than Black Wind demigod, showing just how fast the latter was. The third factor is possessing terrifying combat power capable of shaking the heavens and moving the earth. Like Gu Qijue, as long as one's own combat power is strong enough, they can naturally sweep through armies and be invincible, killing enemies and preserving oneself through countless life and death struggles. The final situation is possessing any two or all three of the factors mentioned above. Gu Qijue, in fact, possessed all three factors. His luck has always been excellent, and as for his strength and speed, Black Wind Demigod had already experienced them. Swish! After he caught up to Gu Qijue Demigod, the blood spear in his hand fiercely thrust out. Clang! Gu Qijue Demigod also didn't sit idly waiting for death, throwing out a massive bronze cauldron to block. A collision sound, like a great bell or chime, suddenly rang out, and this massive cauldron was instantly blasted apart by Gu Qijue's single spear strike. Gu Qijue Demigod, who was hiding behind the massive cauldron, was likewise killed by a single spear strike from Gu Qijue. In an extremely short period of time, two demigod powerhouses from the Black Wind Domain allied army died successively at Gu Qijue's hands. Although killing demigod powerhouses was not yet as easy as killing a chicken for him, these demigods were fundamentally no match for him. After Gu Qijue Demigod was eliminated, Gu Qijue also took his demigod crystal core. With two demigod crystal cores in hand, he could clearly use them to create another demigod life form. 156. Conquer. Although the harvest this time was immense, Gu Qijue had no intention of letting the Black Wind Demigod and the others go. Whoosh! Gu Qijue raised his hand, tore it open, and directly ripped a huge spatial rift. Performing spatial traversal. After several spatial traversals, the Silver Wolf Demigod was intercepted by him. The Silver Wolf Demigod was very aware of Gu Qijue's terror. He immediately dared not resist and instantly pleaded for mercy. I am willing to surrender, please spare my life. After the Silver Wolf Demigod spoke, he heard words that greatly enraged him. Gu Qijue merely said indifferently, Your Excellency, the head of state does not accept your surrender. His meaning was very clear, surrender was not permitted. As a demigod powerhouse, the Silver Wolf Demigod didn't even have the chance to surrender. In fact, if he were to self-detonate now, Gu Qijue might not be able to kill him and retrieve his demigod crystal core before he self-detonated. It was as if no one could occupy Paris before France surrendered. The Silver Wolf Demigod's eyes turned cold, and his divine power instantly burned wildly throughout his body. He did not choose to self-detonate, but instead chose to fight Gu Qijue to the death. Roar! The Silver Wolf Demigod let out a furious roar and transformed into a gigantic silver wolf Yao beast like a mountain, although he could be kept as a mount. However, Gu Qijue could use the infinite engine to create gods and customize the demigods he needed, so of course, he would kill the Silver Wolf Demigod and collect his demigod crystal core. Roar! The twin dragons behind Gu Qijue's shoulders spewed wind, thunder, and flames at this moment. A moment later, the heavens and earth were completely enveloped by the flames of burning heaven. A massive fireball completely engulfed the Silver Wolf Demigod. The scorching flames constantly twisted space, as if the entire space was about to be completely melted by the heat. The Silver Wolf Demigod, located in the center of the huge fireball, endured even more concentrated and hotter, terrifying high temperatures. Bursts of explosive flames continuously erupted on its body. In a short while, the Silver Wolf Demigod let out an angry roar, then crashed to the ground. Not long ago, they had thought that this surprise attack on the Ice Soul Domain would very likely result in a decapitation strike against Gu Qijue. Now, Gu Qijue's head was still on his neck, while they were being killed one after another by Gu Qijue. However, it must be said that the Black Wind Demigod ran very fast. Now, Gu Qijue could no longer capture the Black Wind Demigod's figure. The Black Wind Demigod also did not flee towards the Tianheng Domain battlefield or the Black Wind Domain battlefield. His escape direction was somewhat strange. That place seemed to have no realm. He wondered if the Black Wind Demigod had panicked and run in the wrong direction. Gu Qijue did not continue to bother with the Black Wind Demigod. The monk may run, but the temple cannot. Although the Black Wind Demigod escaped, the people of the Black Wind Domain could not, and the resources of the Black Wind Domain certainly would not grow legs and run away. However, Gu Qijue did not go to the Black Wind Domain battlefield, but instead went to the Tianheng Domain battlefield. In that place, the Greedy Wolf Demigod, the Nanheng Demigod, and the Black Wind Domain Will Incarnation were fighting fiercely with the three demigods, including Gu Qijue. Although the Black Wind Demigod was disloyal, leaving Gu Qijue and the Silver Wolf Demigod to die. But when he fled, He clearly notified the Nan-Heng demigod and the greedy wolf demigod. At this time, the Nan-Heng demigod, the greedy wolf demigod, and the Black Wind domain were all rapidly withdrawing. The Nan-Heng demigod and the greedy wolf demigod were both fleeing towards the heavenly wolf domain. The Black Wind domain was clearly finished. Continuing to go to the Black Wind domain would be futile. The Black Wind domain originally wanted to return to the Black Wind domain, but after seeing the greedy wolf demigod and the other one heading to the heavenly wolf domain, he could only go to the heavenly wolf domain as well. As long as the green hills remain, there will be no shortage of firewood. As long as they don't die in battle, they could launch a counterattack on the Black Wind domain at any time. Not long after Gu Qijue approached the Tianheng domain battlefield, he saw the Gu Qijue demigod, Victoria demigod, and Tian Yue demigod. Victoria was in good condition, her enemies were no match for her. The Gu Qijue demigod and Jai Tianyu were both injured. One of Gu Qijue demigod's arms had disappeared and was currently being slowly reshaped with vast divine power. If he needed to, he could reshape it quickly, however. A quickly reshaped arm would not reach the strength of the original arm. Reshaping it slowly like this allowed for continuous adjustments and nourishment of the new arm during the process. This allowed the newly formed arm to approach the strength of the original arm. Gu Qijue looked at the Gu Qijue demigod and asked, "Are you all right?" The Gu Qijue demigod shook his head. "Minor injury. No damage to my origin." Gu Qijue immediately looked at Jai Tianyu again. "What about you?" Jai Tianyu shook her head. "My injuries are not severe either. I can recover in half a day." "How is the situation in the Ice Soul domain? What is the current state of the Black Wind domain battlefield?" Gu Qijue casually said. "The battle on the Black Wind domain battlefield is proceeding very smoothly. There were 4 demigods in the Ice Soul domain before. Now, apart from the Black Wind demigod who escaped, the remaining 3 demigods have all been killed by me." Jai Tianyu didn't react at first. A moment later, she and the Gu Qijue demigod both stared at Gu Qijue, dumbfounded and speechless. The Tian Yue demigod asked uncertainly, "Your Excellency, the head of state, killed 3 demigods on the Ice Soul domain battlefield?" Gu Qijue nodded. "Yes. I'm going to the Black Wind domain battlefield now. Do you want to come along? Or return to the Ice Soul domain to heal?" The Gu Qijue demigod said. "This old man wants to go to the Black Wind domain battlefield to take a look." Jai Tianyu also nodded. "I want to go too." Victoria obviously didn't need to express her stance. She would always act 100% according to Gu Qijue's will. Whatever Gu Qijue needed this beautiful demigod to do, Victoria was willing to serve. Since the infinite engine could create such obedient, beautiful demigods, then naturally enemy demigods were not allowed to surrender. After all, a surrendered enemy demigod's value was not even as good as a demigod crystal core. Gu Qijue now used his powerful strength to envelop everyone, then raised his hand to tear open the Void Realm, taking the group through the Void Realm and appearing on the Black Wind domain battlefield. On the Black Wind domain battlefield, the Black Wind domain allied army initially performed well, but after learning that they had achieved no results in either of the 2 demigod battlefields, and had suffered a crushing defeat in one of them, the morale of the Black Wind domain allied army completely plummeted to its lowest point. When Gu Qijue arrived with Jai Tianyu and the others, he saw the Black Wind domain allied army in unprecedented chaos. People constantly fell, and people constantly fled. Other cultivators were in a panic, completely flustered, and had no idea what to do at this moment. Not long after Gu Qijue arrived, Jai Yinyu, piloting the Mist Moon mecha, appeared not far from him. If it were just Gu Qijue alone, Jai Yinyu would have come directly to his side, but that wasn't possible now. There were other demigods beside Gu Qijue. Jai Yinyu immediately saluted. "Greetings, Your Excellency." The head of state, Gu Qijue, nodded and asked, "Have you found any special advanced resources on the Black Wind domain battlefield?" 157, 1/4 of the world for the Emperor Star Alliance. The Black Wind domain was essentially a free gift. The overall strength of the Black Wind domain allied forces was stronger than that of the Ice Soul domain. However, the performance of the Black Wind domain allied forces was far worse than that of the Ice Soul domain. The Ice Soul domain, knowing the formidable power of the Emperor Star allied forces, adopted a steady and cautious strategy when clashing with them. The Black Wind domain was different. Its several demigods were all extremely warlike hawks. When facing the Emperor Star allied forces, they actually came up with a strategy of taking the initiative to launch a decapitation strike against head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star. If they could truly achieve this, there would, of course, be no problem. But the problem with the Black Wind domain was that they overestimated themselves and underestimated Gu Qijue. Upon arriving in the Black Wind domain, Gu Qijue learned a large amount of useful intelligence from Jia Yinyu. After Jia Yinyu gave Gu Qijue a detailed yet concise report, she concluded, "Your Excellency, the head of state, the Black Wind domain has no special resources, but its resource reserves are richer than those of the Ice Soul domain." After speaking, Jia Yinyu continued, "After occupying the Tianheng domain, the Ice Soul domain, and the Black Wind domain, 1/4 of the southeast continent of the Shenhuang continent is already under the control of the Emperor Star allied forces. In the near future, we may need to face one or several major battles, and then we will be able to completely control the southeast continent of the Shenhuang continent." If Jia Yinyu had said this a long time ago, people might have thought she was fantasizing. But now, Gu Qijue and the Emperor Star allied forces have repeatedly proven their strength and determination. The southeast continent of the Shenhuang continent has a total of 12 domains. The remaining 9 domains, however, do not currently share a common hatred. It's not that they haven't noticed the Emperor Star allied forces, rather, they are watching the tigers fight from the mountain. If the Emperor Star alliance were a terrifying, bloodthirsty leviathan capable of simultaneously confronting all 9 of their domains, then the remaining 9 domains of the southeast continent of the Shenhuang continent would, of course, unite in common hatred. Under the current circumstances, the Emperor Star alliance can only attack one domain at a time. The 3 major battles launched by the Emperor Star alliance each involved attacking only one domain, rather than simultaneously attacking 2 or 3 domains. This shows that while the Emperor Star alliance is strong, its strength is limited. Currently, the southeast continent of the Shenhuang continent has formed a 5 domains alliance and a 4 domains alliance. The 4 domains alliance consists of the Heavenly Wolf domain, the South Heng domain, the Flying Eagle domain, and the Quicksand domain. Among them, the Heavenly Wolf domain and the South Heng domain have already suffered losses at the hands of the Emperor Star alliance, while the Flying Eagle domain and the Quicksand domain regard the Emperor Star alliance as a potential great enemy that must be eliminated. The remaining 5 domains alliance, however, does not think this way. They hope that the 4 domains alliance and the Emperor Star alliance will fight to the death. Ultimately, whether the Emperor Star alliance or the 4 domains alliance wins, they can quickly eliminate the victorious but heavily weakened side. In this way, the 5 domains alliance will become the final winner. Possessing the vast lands and resources originally shared by the 12 domains, the 5 domains alliance even provided some support to the 4 domains alliance. The purpose, of course, was still for the 4 domains alliance and the Emperor Star alliance to exhaust each other to the greatest extent possible. Gu Qijue was temporarily unaware of the matters concerning the 4 domains alliance and the 5 domains alliance. At this time, he was inspecting the Black Wind domain. He had now occupied 1/4 of the southeast continent, one of the 9 continents of the Shenhuang continent. As Jia Yinyu said, after a few more battles, he would be able to completely control the southeast continent of the Shenhuang continent. Afterward, he would continue to sweep through the eastern continent and the southern continent, then occupy the central continent and the northern continent. If all of this could be completed smoothly, then his situation on the Shenhuang continent would be 2/3 of the world. It was only a matter of time before he and the Emperor Star alliance completely controlled the Shenhuang continent and established the Divine Wilderness Empire. However, for now, there was no need to consider things too far in the future. The matter to consider at present was still how to occupy the entire southeast continent, one of the 9 continents. While inspecting the Black Wind domain, Gu Qijue simultaneously issued orders to Heaven's Punishment. Heaven's Punishment closely monitor the movements of the Heavenly Wolf domain, the South Heng domain, and the other 9 domains from now on. Heaven's Punishment immediately acknowledged the order. "Understood, Your Excellency, the head of state." Demigod Gu Qijue, standing nearby, spoke with a hint of worry. "We have captured 3 domains in a very short time. Will the remaining 9 domains now unite in common hatred and form a 9 domains allied forces to deal with us?" Hearing this question, Jia Tianyu also looked towards Gu Qijue. In fact, this was also her concern. The Emperor Star alliance currently finds it very easy to deal with a single domain. The Tianheng domain, the Ice Soul domain, and the Black Wind domain are examples. But if the Emperor Star alliance had to face the allied forces of 9 domains simultaneously, that would be a tough challenge. After Demigod Gu Qijue's question, Gu Qijue shook his head and said, "Normally, this wouldn't happen. If they really do that, we can also discuss the best counter-strategy. However, we haven't shown the strength to wage war against a 9 domains allied forces at present. Among the remaining 9 domains of the southeast continent of the Shenhuang continent, there are definitely some who want to watch the tigers fight from the mountain. They'll wait until we and the other domains fight to a stalemate, then come out to pick up the spoils. This is indeed a better choice for them." Demigod Daikui nodded this time, agreeing with Gu Qijue's judgment. All under heaven bustle for profit, all under heaven hustle for gain. Between powers, only interests are eternal. As expected, the remaining 9 domains of the southeast continent will certainly split into 2 factions. Domains like the Heavenly Wolf domain will fight to the death with the Emperor Star Alliance, while a portion of the others will reap the benefits. However, it is clearly not an easy task for them to reap the benefits. The major corporations and forces of the Emperor Star Alliance soon entered the Black Wind domain one after another, beginning to collect various resources. After controlling the Tianheng domain, the Ice Soul domain, and the Black Wind domain, the major corporations of the Emperor Star Alliance now possessed massive resource reserves. For a time, all production and manufacturing departments went into full swing. Large quantities of technological weapons and war machines were continuously produced. The number of Emperor Star combat units also rapidly increased. The current total of Emperor Star combat units has reached 200 billion. Including 100 billion war machines and 100 billion biological units, while the various forces of the Emperor Star Alliance were diligently engaged in production. A large amount of intelligence was also continuously gathered at this time. The high-level officials of the Emperor Star Alliance gradually understood the attitudes of the other 9 domain forces on the southeast continent, one of the 9 continents of the Shenhuang continent. Gu Qijue's previous judgment was completely correct. 158. Pre-war meeting, the curtain rises on the Great Campaign. Although the Emperor Star Alliance now controls the Tianheng domain, the Ice Soul domain, and the Black Wind domain. However, the war headquarters of the Emperor Star Alliance is still located in the Ice Soul domain. Ice Soul domain, Emperor Star Alliance headquarters, Supreme Conference Hall. While various forces were still digesting their spoils of war, Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star organized another major conference here. The matters to be discussed at this conference were extremely important. The Vice Head of State of the Emperor Star Alliance, Daikui Demigod, and the other Vice Head of State, Jai Tianyue Demigod, were all present. Originally, Emperor Star only had 10 elders, but after several consecutive battles, the number of Emperor Star elders has been expanded to 24. Gu Qijue's goal is to have 108 elders, all possessing the strength of a god or higher. Of course, this goal is somewhat ambitious, and for now, they need to proceed step by step. After the 2 vice heads of state, the 24 elders, the leaders of the major conglomerates and hegemonic forces, and numerous great emperors had all arrived, the conference began. During the last conference, quasi-emperor experts were allowed to participate, but this time, as everyone's strength has increased, the previous quasi-emperors have become great emperors. As for the newly promoted quasi-emperor experts, they were unable to participate in this grand meeting. At a glance, the number of great emperors in the Emperor Star Alliance now exceeds 100 and is advancing toward 150. After everyone had arrived, Gu Qijue's voice echoed throughout the conference hall. "Everyone, you are all somewhat aware of the intelligence regarding the outside world during this period, whether you know it or not. As the leader of Emperor Star, I will lead all of you, everyone on Emperor Star, and all other intelligent life forms to continue our triumphant advance. The reason I asked you all to come here is to inform you of my upcoming strategic plan." When Gu Qijue reached this point, everyone became serious. Everyone's gaze was focused on Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue raised his hand and waved, and a massive light screen appeared before him. On this virtual light screen was the complete map of the Shenhuang continent. As everyone began examining the complete map of the Shenhuang continent, Gu Qijue continued. Geographically, the Shenhuang continent is divided into 9 continental plates: east, south, west, north, central, and the southeast, northeast, southwest, and northwest. The area we are currently attacking is the southeast continent plate, which contains 12 domains, including the Tianheng domain. 1/4 of these 12 domains are now under our control. According to the latest intelligence, the remaining 9 domains are split into 2 groups. The 4 domains alliance, which includes the Heavenly Wolf domain and the South Heng domain, intends to fight us to the death. The remaining 5 domains alliance clearly adopts the attitude of sitting on the mountain and watching the tigers fight. In this situation, if we start a war with the 5 domains alliance, the 4 domains alliance will also join the battle. Conversely, if we attack the 4 domains alliance, the 5 domains alliance will stand by and watch. As long as we defeat the 4 domains alliance, Emperor Star will occupy more than half of the southeast continent plate. As Gu Qijue spoke, everyone carefully examined the map. What he said was clearly sound. After taking the 4 domains alliance, the next target would be the 5 domains alliance. Once the 5 domains alliance is captured, Emperor Star will occupy 1/9 of the Shenhuang continent. After several more major battles, the divine wilderness empire that Gu Qijue initially spoke of could become a reality. After looking at the map, Gu Yong's prepared to ask a question. Great Emperor Gu Yong's has still not become a demigod, however. His foundation is already sufficient, and after 1 or 2 more attempts, he will clearly be able to become a demigod. After formulating his words, he asked, "Your Excellency, the head of state, how should we proceed to attack the 4 domains alliance now?" Not only Gu Yong's wanted to know this answer, but everyone else did too. After Gu Yong's asked his question, Gu Qijue replied, "When attacking the 4 domains allied forces, the main battlefield must be set in the Heavenly Wolf domain. The South Heng domain, Flying Eagle domain, and Quicksand domain will clearly dispatch large numbers of reinforcements to support the Heavenly Wolf domain. But it doesn't matter. The 200 billion combat troops of Emperor Star only need to concentrate their efforts in the Heavenly Wolf domain. Of course, this is also what we need to discuss at this conference. If anyone has a better plan, they can propose it." Upon hearing this, everyone fell into contemplation. Whether to concentrate forces to attack 1 domain, disperse them to attack 4 domains, or simultaneously attack 2 domains, all these clearly required careful deliberation. Based on previous experience, it seemed better for the Emperor Star allied forces to concentrate their attack on a single domain. However, the Black Wind domain campaign made everyone realize something else. Even if they opened 3 battlefields simultaneously, the Emperor Star allied forces still possessed the strength to fight. In the situation where 3 battlefields were opened simultaneously, the Emperor Star allied forces even achieved the easiest victory. After a period of thought, Dao Taiwang asked a question. What is the difference between concentrating forces to attack 1 domain and dispersing forces to attack 4 domains simultaneously? This question was one he should have contemplated himself, but since he couldn't figure it out, he had to ask directly. Not only Dao Taiwang, but other experts were not entirely clear either. After he asked, Gu Qijue began to explain, "There are 2 reasons. One reason is that our number of demigods is relatively small. If the battle takes place on a single front, I can rescue the demigods of the Emperor Star Alliance if they encounter danger. The other reason is that the technological weapons of the Emperor Star allied forces have a stacking effect when focusing fire. The greater the number of technological weapons, the better the stacking effect of the focused fire. Therefore, we must strive to conduct the battle on a single front, rather than initiating combat on multiple fronts." Dao Taiwang nodded after listening. "I have no further questions." Gu Qijue immediately continued to ask, "Does anyone else have any questions?" Everyone thought for a moment, but no one spoke. Clearly, they also agreed with Gu Qijue's explanation. The actual situation after the outbreak of battle should conform to Gu Qijue's predictions. Seeing that no one spoke, Gu Qijue issued another command. "Starting today, the major conglomerates, major forces, and all other organizations and forces, large and small, have 10 days to prepare. After 10 days of final pre-war preparations, we will launch an attack on the 4 domains alliance. After this battle, more than half of the southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent will be under our control. However, the 4 domains allied forces are not so easily dealt with. According to recent intelligence, the 4 domains alliance has gathered approximately 300 billion elite cultivators, preparing to participate in this great war. The major conglomerates and forces within the Emperor Star Alliance were generally aware of the intelligence Gu Qijue spoke of. Everyone saw no issues with Gu Qijue's strategic deployment and simply waited for the actual battle to arrive. 159. The whole thing is a grand affair, all about creating a god. Gu Qijue had fully demonstrated his capabilities in the previous attacks on Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and Black Wind Domain. After he made his strategic deployment, the major groups and various forces of the Emperor Star Alliance also went down to make intensive preparations. If they won this battle, they would occupy more than half of the Shenhuang continent, southeast continent plate. Everyone had reaped great benefits during the occupation of Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and Black Wind Domain. Everyone also had very high expectations for the upcoming Great War. Not only that, Dao Taihuang, Gu Yang's, Bei Qingshan, and the other 5 great emperors. After they returned to their respective forces, they received gifts from the head of Emperor Star. What Gu Qijue gave them was nothing else but 10,000 infinite crystal stones each. At this stage, infinite crystal stones are extremely valuable, even unbelievably so, and are the hard currency among hard currencies. Gu Qijue gifting each of them 10,000 infinite crystal stones is definitely a top-tier grand gesture. Dao Taihuang and the other 5, of course, knew why Gu Qijue would give them these 10,000 infinite crystal stones. The reason was none other than that Gu Qijue wanted to help them break through to demigod. Gu Yang's and the others did not hesitate. The moment they received the infinite crystal stones, they announced their seclusion and began their assault on becoming a demigod. Once they succeed, the Emperor Star Alliance will directly gain 5 more demigods. At the same time, Gu Qijue also began his second god creation. Of course, what he created with the infinite engine was still a demigod. After all, what he possessed was still a demigod crystal core. Once he has a god crystal core, he can use the infinite engine to create a god. It is said that the southeast continent plate of Shenhuang continent possesses true god-level powerhouses. However, Gu Qijue did not know where that god-level powerhouse was. As Gu Qijue pondered about god-level powerhouses, he saw a prompt from the infinite engine. Create god. Required materials can be God Crystal Core 1 or Demigod Crystal Core 100. Seeing this prompt, Gu Qijue's eyes flickered slightly. He also began to consider whether to create a demigod now or save the demigod crystal cores he had. Accumulate 100 demigod crystal cores and create a true god. From the total amount of demigod crystal cores needed to create a god, one can see the vast difference between a true god and a demigod. In this way, as long as he had 3 to 5 gods under him, he might be able to sweep across the entire Shenhuang continent and establish the divine wilderness empire. This time, Gu Qijue deliberated for about half a minute before making a decision. His decision was to create demigods first. 100 demigod crystal cores are clearly not easy to accumulate, and creating more demigods now is clearly very useful. At the same time, he also needed to acquire demigod crystal cores from the cultivator forces that had surrendered to the Emperor Star Alliance. Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and Black Wind Domain couldn't possibly have no demigod crystal cores at all. The reason he didn't obtain demigod crystal cores after occupying these 3 places must be because they were hidden. After all, this item is only the size of an egg and can be easily carried by simply placing it in a magic treasure. If nothing unexpected happens, the cultivation forces that have already surrendered to the Emperor Star Alliance should have demigod crystal cores, just not in large quantities. Even the groups and major forces of the Emperor Star Alliance might have already obtained demigod crystal cores. It's just that without sufficient benefits, these people are unwilling to bring them out. Gu Qijue pondered for a moment and came up with a condition that no one could refuse. His voice soon echoed throughout the Ice Soul Domain. I am head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star, and I am now going to announce a very important matter. Members of the Emperor Star Alliance, including the cultivation forces that have surrendered to the Emperor Star Alliance. Anyone, regardless of the means used, as long as they can provide the infinite group with 2 demigod crystal cores, then the infinite group will, to the greatest extent, help them become a demigod. For example, unlimited supply of infinite crystal stones to help them smoothly break through from imperial rank peak to demigod. Gu Qijue's condition was indeed something everyone couldn't refuse. Having 2 demigod crystal cores might not necessarily help one achieve demigod status, but if one has an unlimited supply of infinite crystal stones, then any peak great emperor has a high chance of becoming a demigod. The first to approach the infinite group was none other than Great Emperor Gu Yang's, who had a deep obsession with becoming a demigod. However, he didn't have 2 demigod crystal cores. Instead, he unexpectedly obtained 1 demigod crystal core while sweeping through the Black Wind Domain. Gu Qijue personally met Gu Yang's, and upon seeing Gu Qijue, Great Emperor Gu Yang's handed over a demigod crystal core. Your Excellency, the head of state, this is what I obtained from the magic treasure of a great emperor I killed in the Black Wind Domain. Gu Qijue took the demigod crystal core, nodded, and said, "You can go into seclusion at the infinite group's floating base. As long as it doesn't exceed 100,000 infinite crystal stones, the infinite group can provide them for you." Gu Yong's was overjoyed at the news. "Thank you, Your Excellency, the head of state." Afterward, Gu Qijue had someone take Gu Yong's to go into seclusion. In fact, Gu Yong's would probably be able to break through to demigod after consuming about 20,000 infinite crystal stones. Of course, if his luck was truly terrible, then Gu Qijue's words would be moot. After obtaining a demigod crystal core from Gu Yong's, Gu Qijue couldn't help but hesitate again. Since Gu Yong's could obtain a demigod crystal core from a great emperor's magic treasure, there was no reason others couldn't either. Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and Black Wind Domain are different from Emperor Star. Emperor Star's resources are limited, and there are no top-tier resources. Over countless years, only old ancestor Gu Qijue became a demigod. The three domains of Black Wind Domain and others, however, possess a great deal of resources, and they have top-tier resources. Over countless years, it wouldn't be that only a few demigods were born, right? Not only that, as long as the price is fair, those powerhouses who have surrendered to the infinite group might not lack channels to acquire demigod crystal cores. Thinking of this, Gu Qijue decided not to create demigods for now. He wanted to undertake a grand project. This time, he wanted to create a god, a true god. Besides acquiring demigod crystal cores everywhere, he also had a new idea: to see if he could use the infinite engine to synthesize demigod crystal cores. Since the infinite engine could even create demigods, synthesizing demigod crystal cores would naturally be no problem. After checking, Gu Qijue discovered that the infinite engine could indeed synthesize demigod crystal cores, but the required materials were extremely high-end. He didn't even have a single complete set in his possession, but that didn't matter. He now ruled Emperor Star, plus Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and Black Wind Domain. With these four places combined, would he still be afraid of not gathering enough materials? Please give recommendation tickets, monthly tickets. Thank you. 160. Key materials for creating gods. Once the Emperor Star Alliance possesses divine rank combat power, the battles of Emperor Star on the Shenhuang continent's southeast continent plate would basically be completely over. Just as any number of great emperors are mere chickens and dogs before a demigod, any number of demigods are ants before a true god. God-making is an incredible feat for ordinary people. But for Gu Qijue, god-making is entirely possible. As long as he has enough materials and enough energy, he can create a god. His previous judgment was also completely correct. Not long after he released the news, great emperors, and even some fortunate quasi-emperors, successively came to the infinite group with demigod crystal cores to exchange for infinite crystal stones. On Emperor Star and the Shenhuang continent, infinite crystal stones are currently considered advanced energy and are highly favored by everyone. It's just a pity that demigod crystal cores are truly too rare. The southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent has developed for countless years. Yet, even under such circumstances, he only acquired 8 demigod crystal cores through transactions. Adding the 3 demigod crystal cores he originally owned, Gu Qijue now has 11 demigod crystal cores. He still needs 89 more to create a god. Not only that, god-making also requires some other top-tier materials. Fortunately, he now controls 4 territories: Emperor Star, Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and Black Wind Domain. No matter how many high-end materials god-making requires, he can try to collect them. Gu Qijue did exactly that soon. The Infinite Group once again issued an announcement. The Infinite Group will acquire the following materials from the Emperor Star Alliance and various cultivation forces that have submitted to Emperor Star. Below this announcement was a long list. The list contained the Tier 1 and Tier 2 materials required for god-making. Tier 1 materials, as they are called, are materials directly used for god-making, like demigod crystal cores. Tier 2 materials, as they are called, are materials used to synthesize demigod crystal cores. If, even with this, he still can't gather enough materials for god-making, then Gu Qijue would have to consider whether to continue subdividing the materials or temporarily give up on god-making. Not long after Gu Qijue released the list, Jia Yinyu, the CEO of Tianyue Group, came to the Infinite Group to find Gu Qijue. In Gu Qijue's office on the Infinite Group's floating base, this entire floor of the base was Gu Qijue's office area. After Jia Yinyu arrived, she asked with great curiosity, "Your Excellency, the head of state, why are you acquiring so many advanced materials?" Jai Yinyu and some others had already guessed that Gu Qijue was planning something big, but no one could guess what exactly Gu Qijue was planning. Gu Qijue didn't answer Jai Yinyu directly, but instead asked with a smile, "Why do you ask?" Jai Yinyu found a place to sit and casually replied, "Just curious. Everyone is guessing the true intention behind Your Excellency, the head of state's acquisition of these advanced materials. Some say Your Excellency, the head of state, is preparing to create very powerful technological weapons. Others say Your Excellency, the head of state, might be creating demigod-level war machines." Gu Qijue smiled. "Then what do you think I'm going to do?" Jai Yinyu shook her head. "How would I know, however?" Gu Qijue asked with a hint of doubt. "However what?" Jai Yinyu raised her hand, and a virtual screen appeared in front of her. Gu Qijue saw some materials on this virtual screen. These materials were the various materials that the Infinite Group was currently acquiring from the outside world. He was immediately curious as to why Jai Yinyu was showing him this. As he pondered, Jai Yinyu pointed out two types of materials. One of these materials was star sand, and the other was called sixth fiber. In different places on the Shenhuang continent, these two materials have different names, but that doesn't hinder understanding what they are. After Jai Yinyu pointed out these two materials, she said, "The Ice Soul domain and the other three places have very little star sand. As for the sixth fiber, neither Emperor Star, nor the Ice Soul domain, Tianheng domain, or Black Wind domain have it. As far as I know, only the South Heng Sea and the South Heng domain nearby has this material. They call it South Heng Silk, but from the publicly available data, the so-called South Heng Silk is the sixth fiber." Gu Qijue had originally thought that with Emperor Star plus the three domains of the Ice Soul domain, he would be able to gather enough materials for god-making no matter what. Now it seems that there might be problems with the two key materials for god-making. Gu Qijue immediately said, "Does this mean the Infinite Group's new project can only be temporarily shelved? Or do you have a way to obtain South Heng Silk and enough star sand?" After speaking, his gaze turned to Jai Yinyu. She couldn't have just come to tell him that these two materials were difficult for the Infinite Group to acquire. Jai Yinyu indeed didn't just come to tell him this news, she also helped him think of a solution. "Your Excellency, the head of state can emulate the previous secret infiltration into the Ice Soul domain and enter the South Heng Sea of the South Heng domain to acquire South Heng Silk, which is the sixth fiber. Furthermore, there is a lot of star sand in the South Heng Sea. Your Excellency, the head of state, can collect star sand while acquiring the sixth fiber. But I'm very curious, what kind of technological weapon does Your Excellency, the head of state, intend to create by collecting so many top-tier materials? I roughly estimated that the value of these materials is shockingly high. Could it be that Your Excellency, the head of state, really intends to create a demigod?" Gu Qijue smiled, not answering the question, but instead said to Jai Yinyu, "I'm preparing to make a trip to the South Heng domain. You should come with me." Jai Yinyu was happy to hear this, but she still said, "Aren't you afraid I'll be a burden to you?" Gu Qijue laughed heartily. "We're going there secretly this time, not to fight to the death with the powerhouses of the South Heng domain. Unless something very unexpected happens, we'll be able to return safely after taking the star sand and the sixth fiber." Gu Qijue had experience with this kind of thing. Before the war with the Ice Soul domain, he had taken Jai Yinyu to secretly investigate the Ice Soul domain in this manner. Next, Gu Qijue and Jai Yinyu each made some arrangements. After they had properly arranged matters for the Infinite Group and Tianyue Group, they set off for the South Heng domain. Although Gu Qijue didn't admit it, Jai Yinyu felt that Gu Qijue was most likely going to create demigod-level war machines, or even demigod life forms. Whether it was creating demigod-level war machines or demigod life forms, it was clearly a matter in the realm of super high technology. If the Infinite Group could casually create demigod life forms, then the Infinite Group and other groups would clearly not be on the same level, but rather in a much higher position. 161. Nanhengxi, tainted by divine blood. Gu Qijue didn't know that Jai Yinyu had already made a judgment on the Infinite Group's new project. However, Jai Yinyu's judgment on the Infinite Group's new project was clearly wrong, because the Infinite Group wasn't trying to create demigods. Creating demigods was already old news for the Infinite Group and Gu Qijue. The demigod Victoria was previously created by Gu Qijue using the Infinite Engine. This time, he was going to bring a small shock to the Emperor Star Alliance and the southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent. He was going to create a god for Gu Qijue. Secretly infiltrating the South Heng domain was an easy task. His incredibly powerful demonic power allowed him to drastically change his appearance and aura, as well as Jai Yinyu's. At this moment, the experts of the South Hang domain would only think they were two ordinary demon emperors and wouldn't suspect anything. Gu Qijue's objective in going to the South Hang domain was very clear. That was 50,000 units of star sand and 10,000 units of 6 fiber. The term 50,000 units can be understood as 50,000 portions. Units is a material unit unique to the infinite engine. Gu Qijue brought Jia Yinyu all the way to the South Hang domain, only to find that the Four Domains Alliance had also prepared a big surprise for him. As the two gradually approached the South Hang domain, Jia Yinyu said with a hint of nervousness, "The Four Domains Alliance has employed a strategy of repairing the plank road in the open while secretly crossing the Chengkang Pass. On the surface, they are gathering a large army in the Heavenly Wolf domain, but in reality, their elites and experts have secretly come to the South Hang domain." The reason Jia Yinyu made such a judgment was because there were simply too many experts in this place. It's no exaggeration to say that in the current South Hang domain, great emperors are everywhere, quasi-emperors are as numerous as dogs, and sane rank experts are as common as ox hair. There are as many as you want. This made Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu inconspicuous when they appeared in the South Hang domain. The South Hang domain's inspection of outsiders was extremely strict. During their entry into the South Hang domain, Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu underwent inspections by at least 10 demigods. The Four Domains Alliance wanted to stir up trouble in the South Hang domain, so of course, they would block information to the greatest extent possible to prevent spies from the Emperor Star Alliance from finding out. In the Heavenly Wolf domain, the Four Domains Alliance's blockade was also extremely strict. So before Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu entered the South Hang domain, they didn't know that the Four Domains Alliance's elites and top experts had already entered the South Hang domain. Upon arriving in the South Hang domain, Gu Qijue didn't hesitate, choosing to take the familiar floating treasure ship to the South Hang Sea. Once on a floating treasure ship, Gu Qijue used his demonic power to envelop the entire room. Jia Yinyu relaxed a little at this moment and said, "What is the Four Domains Alliance trying to do? So many experts and elite troops have gathered here without anyone noticing." Gu Qijue showed a thoughtful expression, pondered for a moment, then replied, "There are two possibilities. One is that the Four Domains Alliance is preparing to fight us on two fronts. They have a large number of experts and elite combat troops in both the Heavenly Wolf domain and the South Hang domain. Once war breaks out, Emperor Star might not be able to cope with both ends. Emperor Star's laser floating cannon positions and missile positions have very strong frontal combat capabilities, but once they are outflanked, their power will be greatly reduced. This should be one of the Four Domains Alliance's effective responses to Emperor Star's technological weapons." Jia Yinyu nodded slightly upon hearing this. Gu Qijue's analysis made sense. The denser their laser floating cannons and various missile positions were, the greater their power. Under such circumstances, fighting on two fronts would be advantageous for the Four Domains Alliance and disadvantageous for Emperor Star. Jia Yinyu immediately asked, "In that case, what adjustments and countermeasures should we make?" Gu Qijue smiled. "I have two plans. One plan requires me to go back and discuss it with the major groups and various hegemonic forces of the Emperor Star Alliance. The other plan is to resolve the conflict with the Four Domains Alliance in a way no one could have imagined. By then, more than half of the southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent will be under my and Emperor Star's rule. As long as we can eliminate the remaining 5 Domains Alliance, I and the many experts of Emperor Star will become the supreme rulers of the southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent." Jia Yinyu understood Gu Qijue's first plan. That was to pool their wisdom and collectively discuss an ideal countermeasure. But she didn't understand Gu Qijue's second plan. She really couldn't imagine what trump card Gu Qijue would pull out, and that this trump card would even have a decisive effect. Although Jia Yinyu was very curious, she did not ask. It was also at this moment that the floating treasure ship they were on was subjected to a terrifying attack and began to crash towards the South Hang Sea. Gu Qijue grabbed Jia Yinyu, and with a shift of his body, he appeared outside the floating treasure ship. Then he saw that the people of the South Hang domain seemed to have started an internal conflict. Gu Qijue looked around, then casually raised his hand and grabbed a waiter from a floating treasure ship, asking, "What's going on?" This person was not an ordinary waiter, but the steward of the floating treasure ship Gu Qijue was on. Sensing the terrifying strength of Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu, Steward Qiu also spoke cautiously. "Reporting to your majesty. The Yao race in the South Hang Sea has started an internal conflict for some unknown reason. During this time, All creatures passing through the South Hang Sea will be attacked by them. Previously, they wouldn't attack floating treasure ships. But now, for some unknown reason, even floating treasure ships have become their targets. Gu Qijue and Jai Yinyu exchanged glances, both seeing confusion in each other's eyes. As newcomers, their understanding of the South Hang domain was very limited. For Gu Qijue, this was neither good nor bad news. If the South Hang Sea hadn't fallen into chaos, the difficulty for him to find star sand and sixth fiber would have been less. The only downside was that he might be discovered by creatures in the South Hang Sea, leading to conflict. Now that the South Hang Sea was in complete chaos, the difficulty of finding high-grade materials had increased significantly. But the South Hang Sea was already a mess, and his entry into it to search for high-grade materials would obviously not be noticed. After learning about the situation in the South Hang Sea, Gu Qijue continued to ask, "Is there no news from the outside world about the reason for the internal conflict among the South Hang Sea Yao race?" This, Steward Q didn't answer directly, but showed a troubled expression. Gu Qijue understood that this old man knew something, but he wasn't going to give away the information for free. He wanted a benefit. He immediately took out an infinite crystal stone and handed it to Steward Q. Infinite crystal stone was the name Gu Qijue gave it in the places he ruled. This kind of treasure was called infinite crystal stone. However, the South Hang domain also had infinite crystal stones, which were called South Hang crystal stones in the South Hang domain. 162. God-level dragon corpse from the abyss after Steward Q received an infinite crystal stone. The difficult expression on his face instantly vanished completely. He looked around and then whispered, "The Nan Hang demigod does not allow us to gossip about this matter." However, for cultivation forces that frequently operate in the South Hang Sea, this is actually not much of a secret. Hearing him say this, Gu Qijue couldn't help but become somewhat interested. Jai Yinyu was the same. Both listened to Steward Q continue speaking. Having received a benefit, Steward Q naturally dared not conceal the information. Otherwise, if these two great emperors in front of him became unhappy, they might just slap him dead instantly. It is said that a true deity has fallen in the South Hang Sea. The blood of that deity contaminated the South Hang Sea. The Yao race members contaminated by the deity's blood become extremely bloodthirsty and extremely violent. Those Yao race members who were not contaminated by the deity's blood want to eliminate this group of lunatics. However, those Yao race members contaminated by the deity's blood might only appear once or twice throughout the year. At other times, they seem to go toward the vicinity of the deity's remains. But Steward Q stopped continuing just as he reached the most crucial point. Gu Qijue did not ask him what the but was, because asking Steward Q directly what the but was would yield no answer. Gu Qijue raised his hand and threw out another infinite crystal stone, signaling Steward Q to continue. After receiving another infinite crystal stone, Steward Q began speaking fluently again. But the Nan Hang demigod and some other powerhouses have entered the South Hang Sea to search. They did not sense any divine aura in the South Hang Sea, nor did they find the deity's exuviae. This matter has become very confusing. No one knows whether there are deity remains in the South Hang Sea. What Steward Q said was almost as good as saying nothing at all. He rambled on to Gu Qijue for a long time, and the final conclusion he reached was an unproven hypothesis. Since it hasn't been proven, the Yao race members in the South Hang Sea might be contaminated by the deity's blood, or they might have gone astray due to other reasons. Regardless of why the Yao race members of the South Hang Sea were having problems, Gu Qijue prepared to enter the South Hang Sea to investigate. He immediately asked his last question. "Is there anything I need to pay attention to when entering the South Hang Sea now?" Steward Q was astonished upon hearing this and asked, "The Great Emperor intends to enter the South Hang Sea?" Gu Qijue nodded. "That's right." Hearing this news, Steward Q said, "The South Hang Sea is currently very chaotic. If the Great Emperor needs any resources from the South Hang Sea, our merchant association might have them." He clearly hoped Gu Qijue would go to their merchant association to purchase resources. This fellow was a complete businessman. Every 3 words revolved around money. Gu Qijue immediately stopped wasting words with this fellow and directly took Jai Yinyu, escaping into the South Hang Sea. The moment he entered the South Hang Sea, Gu Qijue was certain that this place definitely contained the deity's exuviae. It wasn't that he sensed anything, but that the infinite engine had detected a divine aura. Divine aura detected, approximate location pinpointed. A very rough map appeared in Gu Qijue's mind. He immediately followed this map, leading Jai Yinyu forward. The deity's exuvie itself was priceless materials, and the deity's storage ring might contain other top-tier supreme treasures. For the sake of god-making, Gu Qijue's savings had been practically emptied. But if he could obtain a set of deity's exuvie and the storage magic treasure of the deity powerhouse, he would clearly recover significantly. As Gu Qijue traveled through the South Heng Sea with Jia Yinyu, he saw a large number of Yao race corpses killed in battle. The fighting among these Yao race members was extremely fierce. In many areas, the seawater was purely blood. Gu Qijue quickly moved through the sea with Jia Yinyu. The closer he got to the deity's exuvie, the better the detection effect of the infinite engine became. After the two of them had gone deeper for a while, the pressure of the surrounding seawater grew heavier and heavier. A bottomless trench also appeared before the two of them at this moment. Let's go. Let's take a look down there. Gu Qijue roughly understood why the demigods of the South Heng domain were unable to discover the deity's exuvie. This trench was somewhat unique. If the infinite engine hadn't detected the deity's exuvie below, he wouldn't have sensed anything either. This trench shielded his senses, and the deeper they went beneath the trench, the more terrifying the pressure they had to endure became. The demigods of the South Heng domain must have explored the trench as well. However, they were unsure whether the deity's exuvie was truly down there, so they didn't continue exploring indefinitely. Another reason was that the Nan Heng demigod and the others had limited strength and couldn't get close to the deity's exuvie. Gu Qijue continuously dove into the trench with Jia Yinyu. His powerful and overbearing demonic power created a barrier between them, isolating the external pressure. As he led Jia Yinyu closer to the location detected by the infinite engine, the two of them witnessed an extremely shocking sight. Jia Yinyu opened her mouth in surprise. Is this a deity? She saw a blood dragon whose body size was impossibly massive. She also felt a terrifying, suffocating pressure emanating from it. When the Emperor Star will appeared previously, it would transform into a black dragon that obscured the sky and sun. The body of this blood dragon was even larger than the black dragon formed by the Emperor Star will. Furthermore, when Gu Qijue appeared here, a massive amount of divine rank blood-colored energy was drawn in and continuously surged towards him. A look of ecstasy quickly appeared on Gu Qijue's face. This was an old blood dragon that had died of age. Its level was even higher than the 9 ancestors of the blood dragon. It was actually an old divine rank dragon. Although it had died of old age here, it had left behind a legacy. It was just that its legacy had not been obtained by the dragon clan for too long, causing its power to begin dissipating. Many weak Yao race members, nourished by the dragon blood, grew at an astonishing speed. What was rather awkward was that Jia Yinyu was not a native Yao race member of this place and was actually unable to gain any benefits. The vast and pure power of the dragon blood continuously washed over Gu Qijue's body, merging madly into his physique. This allowed his realm to easily achieve a breakthrough to demigod. His strength was already formidable, and after achieving demigod status, other demigods no longer had the qualifications to compete with him. The immense power of the blood dragon also caused his strength to continuously improve within the demigod stage. His demigod crystal core became extremely condensed and tough in the blink of an eye. His strength also visibly and rapidly increased from demigod first layer to demigod second layer, third layer and fourth layer, skyrocketing all the way to demigod fifth layer before stopping. The blood dragon's originally massive dragon body gradually transformed into a dragon egg during this process. Within that dragon egg, a terrifying, earth-shattering power was also brewing. After sensing it for a moment, Gu Qijue once again showed an expression of ecstasy. Inside the dragon egg was a demigod lifeform and, moreover, a demigod whose strength was infinitely close to that of a deity. This trip to the South Heng domain was truly the right choice. 163. The powerful blood dragon god inheritance. This special space, where the blood dragon fell, clearly has more than one entrance. This place, at first, didn't seem to be a trench, but rather an abyss. It is unknown whether it fell into the South Heng Sea along with the blood dragon god. Besides the direction Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu came from, some creatures also appeared from other directions. This place has an extremely powerful special domain that resists external pressure. Therefore, these ordinary creatures appearing here would not die instantly. Not long after these ordinary creatures appeared, they would rapidly transform into the Yao race and quickly mature under the nourishment of the blood dragon god's divine blood. Gu Qijue observed for a while and realized that it might not be that these members of the Yao race were particularly bloodthirsty, causing them to erupt into terrifying battles with the Yao race of the South Hang Sea. Instead, because these members of the Yao race absorbed dragon blood, they were seen as great tonics in the eyes of other members of the Yao race. Therefore, whether it was the Yao race of the South Hang Sea or the other cultivators of the South Hang domain, they would hunt these members of the Yao race. After Gu Qijue gradually stopped cultivating, Jai Yinyu asked uncertainly, Did you become a god?" Gu Qijue laughed and sighed. "How could it be that fast?" Jai Yinyu breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Then you are a demigod now?" It wasn't that she didn't want Gu Qijue to become a god. But if Gu Qijue were to ascend to the heavens in a single step, directly entering the god rank from the imperial rank, it would be too shocking for her. Gu Qijue nodded slightly. "Yes. I am now at demigod 5th level." After Gu Qijue's affirmative reply, Jai Yinyu spoke with considerable surprise, "But I feel like you are much stronger than other demigods." Gu Qijue nodded this time. "That is true, even when I was still at the imperial rank. I could fight against demigods. Now that I have broken through to demigod 5th level, I am already unrivaled within the demigod stage." And Jai Yinyu's curiosity was piqued and she quickly asked, "And what?" Gu Qijue chuckled. "Come closer, I'll tell you quietly." Jai Yinyu rolled her eyes but still moved closer to Gu Qijue. After she moved closer, Gu Qijue didn't tell her the and what, but instead kissed her fiercely. It wasn't that Gu Qijue was overcome by animalistic urges, he was simply too happy. Only by fiercely kissing the great beauty Jai Yinyu could he release some of the ecstasy in his heart. He obtained the complete legacy of the Blood Dragon God. Within the Blood Dragon God's legacy, there are numerous extremely powerful and heaven-defying methods. This was the first benefit he received. His strength also leaped from the imperial rank peak to demigod 5th level. This was the second benefit he received. Furthermore, he also obtained a dragon egg at the demigod peak. This dragon egg has the potential to grow into a god. Finally, his 4th form completely transformed and took shape just now. His first form is his current appearance. His second form is when a dragon tail grows behind him, and twin dragons emerge from his back. His third form is complete dragon transformation, turning into a black dragon. His 4th form is transforming into the even more terrifying and powerful Blood Dragon God. The Blood Dragon God is not an ordinary god, but the most supreme god among all gods. In the Blood Dragon God state, he can even tear apart ordinary gods with his bare hands and acquire their god crystal cores. He originally came to the South Heng domain to obtain star sand and the 6th fiber, gathering materials for god creation. Unexpectedly, his fortune was boundless, and he discovered the Blood Dragon God here, giving him the strength to fight a god. Jai Yinyu was held and kissed fiercely by Gu Qijue for a good while. Her tongue felt numb before Gu Qijue finally let her go. When Gu Qijue looked at Jai Yinyu again, he saw her delicate and charming expression, looking as if she was about to cry from his bullying. Immediately, he could only hold the great beauty Jai, one of his wives, in his arms and comfort her properly. Only then did he answer the question Jai Yinyu had asked earlier. "When we were in the Ice Soul domain before, I told you I had 3 battle forms and was comprehending the 4th battle form. I have now comprehended it. My 4th battle form is the Blood Dragon God form. Now that I have obtained the complete legacy and memories of the Blood Dragon God, I know some extraordinary things. The Blood Dragon God was not a god born on the Shenhuang continent, but a god born elsewhere." Although Jai Yinyu was almost bullied to tears by Gu Qijue just now, she was still extremely shocked upon hearing this news. Before they left the Emperor Star, they thought that the entire universe only had intelligent life on the Emperor Star. Only after discovering the Shenhuang continent did they realize. It turned out that not far from the Emperor Star, there was also a massive world like the Shenhuang continent. Now Jai Yinyu learned a very astonishing piece of news. Intelligent life also exists in places outside the Shenhuang continent, and in that place, a powerful god like the Blood Dragon God was born. Jai Yinyu asked uncertainly, "Are there many other places with intelligent life?" Gu Qijue nodded. "Yes, but that intelligent life is very far away from us. Whether it is the Shenhuang continent or the Emperor Star, both are resource-scarce barren lands in this universe. In such places, it is difficult for intelligent life to be born. Therefore, in a large surrounding area, only the Emperor Star and the Shenhuang continent are the 2 places where much intelligent life has been born. However, due to the lack of resources, the intelligent life born here cannot compare to the intelligent life born elsewhere." Hearing him say this, Jai Yinyu couldn't help but worry. She pondered for a moment, then said, Then will other advanced civilizations attack the Emperor Star and the Shenhuang continent? Gu Qijue pondered for a moment before replying, generally. No, neither the Shenhuang continent nor the Emperor Star possesses resources that advanced civilizations would be interested in. Under these circumstances, attacking us holds little significance for them. Furthermore, while our overall strength is weak, our individual strength is not. A demigod-rank powerhouse, even placed elsewhere, would still be considered strong. After speaking, Gu Qijue scooped Jia Yinyu up into a princess carry. He said softly, "That's why I need to hurry up and help you purify your bloodline so you can reach the demigod level sooner. Otherwise, if some advanced civilization loses its mind and insists on attacking the Shenhuang continent and the Emperor Star, you would have no power to protect yourself." After being picked up by him, Jia Yinyu quickly said, "But we can't purify my bloodline here, can we?" Gu Qijue said indifferently, "Does it matter? Anyway, no one will come to this place to disturb us." Although he said that, Jia Yinyu's cheeks flushed, and her pretty face turned red all the way to her ears. She could only shake her head, signaling Gu Qijue not to mess around. But Gu Qijue completely ignored her advice. 164. The perilous situation of the Dragonblood demon clan. The slaughter continued across the South Hang Sea. Gu Qijue's previous judgment was completely correct. The claim that some Yao race members were polluted by divine blood simply couldn't hold up. The Yao race members nourished by divine blood were not polluted. Instead, they gained tremendous benefits. They possessed a trace of dragon qi, and by diligently cultivating and growing, they had a slight chance of transforming into dragons one day. However, the path of cultivation and growth for these Yao race members containing a trace of dragon qi was destined to be difficult. In the eyes of the other Yao race members in the South Hang Sea and the other cultivators in the South Hang domain, they were highly nourishing treasures. Even when generations of these Yao race members nourished by dragon blood united, their situation remained precarious. Among these Yao race members, there were 3 powerful clans that served as the leaders of the many dragon blood demon clan members. These 3 powerful clans were the Mermaid Clan, the Black Flood Dragon Clan, and the Water Spirit Clan. The Mermaid Clan was primarily composed of beautiful women, with only a very small number of male merfolk. They also possessed 2 forms, the mermaid form in the water, and the human form on land. The Black Flood Dragon Clan members were all half-human, half-flood dragon in appearance, with flood dragon horns on their heads and human heads and bodies. Their hands were sharp flood dragon claws, and they had no legs, only a long flood dragon tail. The Water Spirit Clan was somewhat unique. Their appearance was slightly transparent and illusory, although they were in human form most of the time. However, during combat, they would transform into a mass of flowing water. Among the Dragon Blood Demon Clan, all 3 major clans had demigods overseeing them. It was precisely because they had demigods guarding them that the Dragon Blood Demon Clan members hadn't been completely wiped out. However, their 3 demigods were fake demigods. They only possessed demigod strength within the South Hang Sea. Once they left the South Hang domain, their strength would be greatly reduced. In the past, the South Hang domain only had 3 demigods, including the Nan Hang demigod, so they couldn't do anything about them. But this time, a large number of demigods appeared in the South Hang domain. The Mermaid Empress, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor, and the Water Spirit Emperor all received the news. After a while, a large number of demigods would enter the South Hang Sea to encircle and suppress them. At this moment, the Mermaid Empress and the other 2 fake demigods, along with the many Dragon Blood Demon Clan members, were extremely worried. The Mermaid Empress was a peerless beauty with blonde hair and blue eyes, even with her brows tightly furrowed. She remained stunningly beautiful. She sighed softly and said, "If only we could take refuge in the special space where the dragon god resides. Unfortunately, the blood dragon god's coercion is too strong. We have no way to enter that space." The Black Flood Dragon Emperor and the Water Spirit Emperor both nodded upon hearing this, and the Black Flood Dragon Emperor added, "That's right. We've tried many methods, but none allow us to cross over." The Water Spirit Emperor said helplessly, "So what do we do now? None of us 3 are true demigods. We only possess demigod battle strength by relying on the scattered power of the blood dragon god within the South Hang Sea. If more than 3 demigods enter the South Hang Sea to hunt us, the doom of our Dragon Blood Demon Clan will arrive." Neither the Mermaid Empress nor the Black Flood Dragon Emperor could answer the Water Spirit Emperor's question. If they had a solution, the 3 of them wouldn't be gathered here. However, the Mermaid Empress still came up with a solution that was barely a solution. we can actually seek allegiance with the Emperor Star. The matter of the Emperor Star sweeping across the Tianheng domain, the Ice Soul domain, and the Black Wind domain. Now, the races in domains like the South Heng domain, the Heavenly Wolf domain, the Flying Eagle domain, and the Quicksand domain had all learned about it. They also knew that there were cultivation forces in the Tianheng domain, the Ice Soul domain, and the Black Wind domain that had pledged allegiance to the Emperor Star. Some of these cultivation forces had developed quite well after submitting to the Emperor Star. Given this, seeking allegiance with the Emperor Star seemed like a good way out. After the Mermaid Empress finished speaking, the Water Spirit Emperor opened her mouth with a troubled expression. Elder Sister Aisha, but the Dragon Blood Demon clan has so many members. How can we relocate so many of them? Compared to the benevolent Water Spirit Emperor, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor was clearly much colder. There's no choice. We can only save as many as we can. If we continue to stay here, all the clan members will die. The Mermaid Empress remained silent, as she didn't have a better solution, but she also didn't want to abandon her many clan members. Deep beneath the sea, Jai Yinyu's bloodline was purified by Gu Qijue once again. After Gu Qijue became a demigod, his bloodline power was refined and enhanced once more. After obtaining the Blood Dragon God's legacy, his bloodline power underwent several fundamental, transformative changes in succession. The effect of him helping Jai Yinyu purify her bloodline now was simply incredible. Following the last time Gu Qijue helped Jai Yinyu ascend to the Great Emperor rank by purifying her bloodline. This time, during the bloodline purification process, Jai Yinyu broke through from the first stage Great Emperor rank to the second stage Great Emperor rank. At this moment, Jai Yinyu finally somewhat understood why the Tianyu clan chief sought out Gu Qijue for bloodline purification. Even if he made her cry, look at the Tianyu clan chief. Although Gu Qijue harshly bullied her a few times, she is now a demigod. In order for her bloodline power to continuously improve, she had to endure this suffering and silently bear Gu Qijue's savagery and fierceness. Gu Qijue didn't know what Jai Yinyu was thinking. After his body was fully released, he felt completely refreshed. At this moment, he began studying the powerful abilities he had obtained from the Blood Dragon God's legacy. Gu Qijue raised his hand and summoned a beautiful golden fish, which appeared before him. Then, threads of demonic power from his fingertip poured into the golden fish's body, and the golden fish rapidly began to change at a visible speed. The more demonic power he injected, the faster the golden fish grew. In just a moment, the golden fish successfully transformed, turning into a mermaid loli. The mermaid loli now possessed king rank strength. Gu Qijue merely wanted to test the new ability he had acquired from the Blood Dragon God. So, after the mermaid loli grew to the king rank, he stopped. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the mermaid loli's eyes changed from their initial light green to a beautiful blue crystal. Of course, it wasn't that her pupils completely turned into blue crystal, but rather her irises became blue crystal. Not only that, but the seawater in this area became lively with her every breath, as if welcoming its monarch. Gu Qijue's eyes flickered, and he immediately used the infinite engine to check the mermaid loli's aptitude. Little mermaid, nourished by the Blood Dragon God's blood, she gained a trace of divinity and completed a divinity transformation of infinitesimally small probability. Current aptitude, divine rank. After reading this, Gu Qijue immediately gasped. The South Heng domain truly was his blessed land. He casually caused a small fish to grow and evolve, and yet he managed to create a little mermaid possessing divine rank aptitude. However, this little mermaid clearly hadn't finished her complete evolution and transformation, and was currently still undergoing the change. 165. The dragon egg hatches and the baby dragon is born. Out of curiosity, Gu Qijue caught another small fish. This time, he didn't have such heaven-defying luck, even with the nourishment of dragon blood. This small fish only grew for a moment before reaching its limit. This should be the norm for most creatures. Their ceiling is very low, and even with resources like dragon blood, which can turn decay into magic, it cannot help them continuously break through their shackles. After the little mermaid finished her transformation, she immediately swung her beautiful fishtail excitedly and came to Gu Qijue's side. "Father, father!" The little mermaid happily rubbed against Gu Qijue's arm, her watery eyes full of joy. Gu Qijue thought for a moment and corrected her. "Call me adoptive father from now on." The little mermaid nodded her small head obediently after hearing this, and then said, "Okay. Father." Gu Qijue was momentarily dumbfounded and amused. This little daughter goose seemed a bit dim-witted. Just then, the little mermaid happily swung her beautiful fish tail again, went to Jai Yinyu's side, hugged Jai Yinyu's long leg and continuously rubbed her small head against it. She spoke in a clear, soft voice, "Mother, mother." Jai Yinyu waved her hands repeatedly. "I am not your mother. She is a sky moon python, not a mermaid." But the little mermaid ignored her completely, just hugging her long leg and calling mother, mother nonstop. Jai Yinyu felt helpless and could only let her continue calling her that. Moreover, she discovered that the little mermaid actually carried a trace of Gu Qijue's aura. More precisely, it was the aura of the blood dragon god. This was naturally the special divine charm acquired after the divine nature transformed and underwent awakening. Even if the current little mermaid grows steadily, she can still become a deity. Just then the dragon egg also reacted. The dragon egg's eggshell quickly cracked, and then an adorably ugly little infant crawled out of the dragon egg. This little infant had a pair of blood dragon horns on his head and looked very simple-minded. After emerging from the dragon egg, he crunched and munched until he ate the entire dragon egg clean. Although this little guy looked simple-minded, the aura on his body was even stronger than Gu Qijue, who was at the 5th stage of demigod. Gu Qijue was only at the 5th stage of demigod, but this little guy was at the demigod peak. After clearing the eggshell, this simple-minded dragon prince came to Gu Qijue's side and tugged at his clothes corner. It was unknown whether this dragon egg was conceived by the blood dragon god or obtained by the blood dragon god from somewhere else. Gu Qijue sensed it and found that the dragon prince's aura was slightly different from the blood dragon god's, but he couldn't find any related memory fragments in the blood dragon god's legacy memories. Although the dragon prince looked simple-minded, he patted his small belly and said to Gu Qijue in babbling speech, "Imperial father, your child is hungry." Gu Qijue could only be dumbfounded and amused again. Correcting him, "You should also call me adoptive father." The dragon prince nodded his small head obediently upon hearing this. "Adoptive father, your child obeys the command." Compared to the little mermaid, although he was adorably naive, he was clearly smarter. Gu Qijue was truly dumbfounded and amused now, having inexplicably gained an adopted son and an adopted daughter. However, he still took out an infinite crystal stone from his spatial device and handed it to the dragon prince. In his heart, he was pondering what names to give these two little ones. After pondering for a moment, he decided he already had one adopted son, which was Gu Yinling. The little mermaid he met this time could be considered Gu Yinling's younger sister. However, the little mermaid obviously couldn't be named Gu Yinyu. It didn't sound very pleasant, so the name he gave the little mermaid was Gu Little Fish. As for the adorably ugly dragon prince, he certainly wasn't going to be named Gu Xiaolong or Gu Xiaomeng or anything similar. Because this little guy possessed a pair of blood pupils, the name Gu Qijue gave him was Gu Qitong. Gu Qijue waved his hand, calling the pair of little ones to his front. After the little mermaid came over, swinging her beautiful fishtail, the first thing she said was, "Father, hug." Hearing this, the dragon prince shook his head repeatedly. While speaking in a milky voice, shameful, Gu Qijue couldn't help but smile at this scene. However, he was not planning to stay here any longer. He immediately said to the